Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the City Commission Conference Meeting this Tuesday, May 17th. Appreciate all those in attendance today, and thank you all for taking up part of your afternoon to be here. So, shoot, I don't have my computer here, so I don't have my communications. So let's just go into business 2 right now.
I can summarize the communication for you just real quickly. It's from Planning and Zoning.
What is it?
They basically recommended to the commission that they return the commission chambers to the environment that we had in here pre-COVID. They would like to ask you to take down the barriers that are between you and maybe the stuff at the podium. But that's what the communication was, is they wanted you to return this room to pre-COVID standard.
All right, but I think the commission decided to keep them up.
They did.
Okay. All right. So any comments or questions? There being none. Okay. Business 1, discussion of requested cost of living adjustment for the general employees retirement system. Mr. City Manager, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I don't really have a presentation to make. I'll turn the presentation over. This is the one opportunity that can be made every year when certain financial conditions are met, and they can make the ask. And so this is probably the first quick presentation, which will then likely result in some individual meetings, and then hopefully you'll come to a decision of what you want to do at some point in the future. Let me turn that presentation over.
Great, thank you. So I guess the question is, what is the ask and what's it going to cost? Thank you.
Just 1 second, please.
Real simple.
Then I advance the screen, the slides here. Okay. Hello, everybody. My name's Nick Sheese. I'm the administrator for GERS. It's been a couple years. I hope you've all been well. First of all, I'm here to ask for a favorable consideration of a 3% cost of living adjustment for our retirees and beneficiaries.
How far back?
I'm sorry, it goes
Every retired employee?
through July of last year.
Okay. Up to July of last year.
Up to July of last year.
So everyone get a 3%, a one-time 3%?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It's recurring month after month, but
Right, but for 1 year. When you say 3%, it's 3%
every year,
every year
yes,
going forward.
going forward.
Okay.
So first of all, let me provide
I'm going to look at the auditor and have him roll his eyes.
Okay. It's not a 3% bump each and every year. It's a 3% one-time increase for all the retirees.
That's what I asked. It's one time 3% going forward. Okay.
Great.
All right.
First of all, let me provide a brief update on the plan. I think it's important. By every single metric, GERS is in the best financial position that it's ever been since inception.
The best.
The very best by every single metric.
Okay.
Let me move on to one of those. The most commonly used metric is the funding ratio of the plan. And as you can see from the trend line, it has trended upwards to 99%. It actually would have been 103%, but this year we reduced our investment return assumption from 7.0% to a very conservative 6.5%. So that brought it back down to 99%. Otherwise, it would have been 103%. Anything over 80% is considered very satisfactory. The star of the story really is the investment returns. Last year alone, the investment return was 24%, over $161 million in 1 year.
So how does the current stock market and general market conditions, those are more recent impacts to this fund. How is that impacting it?
The marking point is what it is as of September 30th. I mean, if you remember back to COVID, there was a very big dip that had recovered by September 30th of 2001. So that's the marking point. Additionally, the investment returns are averaged. It's a moving 5-year averaging period. So even if there was a downturn in 1 year, that only represents 20% of the equation that we use to determine funding.
So if we did what you asked, what would be the ultimate cost to the city year after year?
Okay. Moving right along. You just saved yourself 2 hours. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so first of all, on the COLA, well, I'll go ahead and answer your question first. So as you can see from this slide, the city's funding requirements have steadily been decreasing. What's the cost? The cost is the funding requirements were going to decrease again by $1.9 million for the 2022 fiscal year. If we retain the same level if we don't lower them, if we retain the same contribution level as in 2021, that would pay for nearly all of it. The cost on it's 2.2. There's about $300,000 difference. So you could fund the 3% COLA just by maintaining the funding requirements of the previous year, plus about $300,000.
And the funding requirements would be sufficient in order to keep a healthy reserve in the account in order to pay for all other outstanding pension obligations?
Yeah, the funding requirements are always that way. And under Florida law, annually a evaluation is performed, and the actuary gives us a bill, and that's the bill is the amount that's required to keep the plan financially solvent. So yes.
Have there been any analyses taken of how the current status of the stock market may or may not have impacted the fund as it currently exists? Have there been any, you say this is a point in time from September 30th of 2021. Yeah. Have there been any projections how the fund may have been impacted by the recent downswing of the stock market and other markets in the financial system?
No, sir. But
no.
I can't remember them ever being done at any point in time other than the marking point of September 30th.
So you don't think it would put us in any red zone that we would have to be concerned about, that it would dip below a level that would be would put the fund at risk?
There will always be variations in the funding requirements will always fluctuate. But again, on the investment return portion of it, it's a moving 5-year average, and it's done very intently to offset any highs or lows in the market over that period of time. We expect there will be a market downturn. I mean, you always expect that there's going to be a market downturn. What's important is what happens over that moving 5-year period. Last year alone we did 24%. The expected return is 6.5%. So we're already up such a huge differential over, again, the 6.5% versus the 24% that we.
But that's as of September 30th of 2021.
Yes, sir.
What there obviously is a negative impact since September 30th, Mr. Auditor, do you have any thoughts on this? I know you're new to the situation, but do you have any thoughts on this?
Well,
you know where I'm going with this?
Well, I mean, I'm just right now, like you said, things go up and down. But right now, I think it's roughly a third of people's portfolios down. So I mean, 24% last year is good, and it kind of counters, and you're doing it 5 years. But you got to look at the 1 year at a time too. If the second year is not good too. So, but if your goal is set at 6.5%. You're going to have highs and lows just like you had in 2008 and also in 2020. So
so you feel that differential provides a sufficient cushion should we have a negative impact on the fund as a result of the investment losses that we may suffer due to the downturn in the economy?
I heard that as of today that we're about even.
We're about even.
We're about even.
That means 6.5%?
I'm sorry?
What does even mean?
Zero. So
Zero.
We haven't lost anything, but we're not up.
So zero, if we want a 6.5% return, what does even mean? Even to what?
That is zero.
even at the rate of expected return, so there's no return.
Right. But again, it's averaged over 5 years. We had 24% last year, so we have a great cushion going into the equation. It's 6.5%. 5 years is 33%. We got 24 in 1 year.
Okay, so to answer my question then, you're saying that there's sufficient cushion in this past year's performance to be able to recover any losses that we may sustain as a result of the downturn of the markets today?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
And over the last 10 years, we actually had 2 negative years, and it's still 11% annualized over 10 years. And we had 2 down years in that. Not big down years, but they were slightly down.
Okay. All right. Thank you. You may proceed.
Mayor?
Wait, I think he has more. Do you have more?
Oh, I just wanted to review the history of the COLA.
Yeah, go ahead. I just wanted to hear the punchline, so.
Okay. So on the history of the COLA, the last COLA was in 2002. And since then, the accumulated CPI, the inflation, 43.5%. That's without this year. Everything I'm hearing this year is 8%, 8-ish%. So 43.5 since 2002.
Okay.
So a mechanism does exist for you to grant a COLA. There are 3 requirements. 2 of the requirements have already been met. Your approval is the final requirement.
Okay. Anyone have any questions?
Mayor, I don't have any questions, but I do have just some comments, if that's okay. This has come before us in past years. I've always actually been supportive, but I've been in the minority. But I really do think it's time that we grant this 3% to the folks in GERS. I guess there are 1,461, something like that, retirees and beneficiaries. And actually, 257 of those get less than $1,000 a month benefit, and 67 actually get less than $500 a month benefit. 21 years is a considerable amount of time to go without a COLA. I'm not sure, and I might be wrong, but I believe that all of the other units do receive COLAs. Are there any other groups of retirees or bargaining units that have not received a COLA regularly? Maybe you're not aware of that, but I'm not sure. City manager, is this the only group that really has not been receiving a COLA all these years?
It's the one that comes to mind, and nothing else does come to mind, so I
Right,
believe so.
I believe that therefore it's really a matter of equity and fairness. Again, 21 years, that's a long time. We certainly know the inflationary pressures that have been exhibited this past year. I just think it's time. And I think that because of the fact that our actual city contributions have dramatically decreased since 2011, if I'm reading this correctly, and we can fund nearly the entire COLA just by retaining that contribution level of 2021, if amortized over 7 years. I think that I just think it's time.
Okay.
I think it's the right thing to do.
Okay.
And it's 3%, and even that will probably not be a tremendous amount of money for many people, but it's something, and more importantly, it shows good faith on our part, and it recognizes the fact that yes, it's been a long time coming. So I am all in favor of this, and I would hope that my colleagues would agree. Thank you.
Anyone else have any?
Yeah, I have some questions. So I know we've had this conversation a few years in a row, or at least a couple times in the past few years. And I know one conversation came up that it's my understanding that this group, when they were employees here, they kind of negotiated for a higher salary maybe at the time, and then they negotiated for this benefit, which did not include a COLA. So I think at this point, am I correct in that assumption or understanding?
Well, there is actually a mechanism already in the ordinance, which
Yeah,
the only reason it would have gotten there was through collective bargaining.
sure.
And that
yeah,
was for an ad hoc COLA. So the ad hoc COLA back in the time back in the day was based upon how the investment returns were doing. In the 10 years prior to 2002, the COLA was awarded 7 out of 10 of those years. So going back at least 31 years now, we've known that has been a mechanism. I'm sure it got in there. The only way it would have gotten in there is through collective bargaining. But it was an ad hoc COLA. It was performance-based. Now, over time, not every year do we meet all 3 of the financial requirements. There has to be a positive investment return.
Yep, you told me those
The
3.
cumulative experience gain, which is the sum of all the gains and losses, not just from the investments, but from everything, has to be positive. It's the highest it's ever been right now at $67 million. But that wasn't always the case. And then there was an additional requirement put on there from the pension bond obligation, okay, that required that any benefit improvement, which this would be considered, even though it's an ad hoc COLA, required a supermajority if it's amortized or a majority if it's funded up front. Now, I've given you the cost for the amortization, and of course that would require all the commissioners' approval to
All
go.
or supermajority?
I'm sorry, all.
Unanimous.
Unanimous.
4
I'm
out
sorry.
of 5 or 5 out of 5?
I'm sorry, 5 out of 5.
5 out of 5.
I misspoke.
Okay.
5 out of 5.
Okay,
To fund it without unanimously would be,
a one-time?
a one-time would be $13.5 million.
Okay,
So that's the amortized cost. So, and that's one of the things that's come up before a couple of years ago was, well, one of the reasons why you're so well-funded is the pension bond obligation.
sure. I also remember us having conversation, and I don't have my notes with me about this, so if I'm going to actually vote on this, I need to kind of get my prior year's notes to understand this further. I thought we said that this could also, Chris, possibly trigger conversations with police and fire and maybe their retirees. Am I remembering that correctly? About maybe some COLAs they may feel like they're entitled to also?
I would have to defer to those retiree groups, but I don't know that there's necessarily an automatic trigger.
Okay, I thought we had that conversation, but once again, I'd have to go back and pull up my notes. Forgive me for not
That
having.
conversation happened in the context of the different tiers of retirement in the fire department that they were talking about, that we thought if we adjusted the retirement tiers that we might hear the same thing requested for from police.
Okay,
But that's
so
different than this.
we were just talking about fire and police, not, okay, comparing them to this group. So I probably also need to understand a little bit more where our budget is this year in terms of our proposed budget and the categories. And I don't know if the Budget Advisory Board has even looked at this, but I know when we discussed the budget a couple weeks ago with the Budget Advisory Board, this was not one of our priorities. And we did really emphasize, roads and projects, and then getting more police officers and making sure our police and fire. So I need to make sure that there is money in the budget for this before, we go down this path. So I kind of wish we maybe had this conversation.
I don't think does this money come out of the general fund, Chris? No.
Yeah, it's where does it come from? Meh. It's just you and your pension fund? No, it's the city general fund, isn't it?
Can you explain where
No,
this money comes
we have to pay for it, city.
So this would come out of the investment returns that are in the fund.
No,
No.
that would be additional funding by the city of well, if you amortize it, the $2.2 million.
Let me
Over 7
grab Susan Grant to come to
Right, and we've
podium
had,
and walk.
That's a good question.
yeah, we've had
she's
this
my,
conversation over the years too.
She's my pension guru, so.
She's
City-
coming up.
My understanding is we do need to fund it. And I know we have said, sure, if it can come out of your fund, do whatever you want with it and, have fun. But I don't believe that's the case.
Well, he said it pays for itself. So
Yeah, but we have to, this is money, we've had the same conversation. We're just hitting
we have.
rewind, repeat. We have to pay a lot of money out of our general fund.
Let me turn over to Susan and Laura as needed.
Great. Good afternoon, Susan Grant, Finance Director, and I'll let Laura talk about just the budgetary impact. But as Nick had mentioned, because of the investment returns, we were actually looking at a $2 million reduction in what the city would have to budget across multiple funds this year. So if we implement this, it will take that away.
so we're
that's
saving
just-
money then.
If we don't implement this, we would save $2 million in what we are funding the pension plan, and that comes out of multiple funds. What percent for the general fund? Go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Laura Reese. Around 50%. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I would say around half of the amount is funded through general fund, and around a half, but it's less than that, from the water sewer fund would be number 2 for the funds that pay for it. So each year we get an actuary report, and they tell us how much we need to contribute into the pension fund. So in our operating budget, we budget for that payment into the pension plan, and we spread it based upon where the people who are in that plan are located. So if more of the employees are in the water sewer fund, their budgets would pay for a larger percentage of that payment.
Are we talking about funding for FY '22 or FY '23? This request?
So based upon the actuary report that they do with the 21 year ending, that drives what we have to pay in our 23 budget.
So, okay, so therefore, it's in our next budget. In other words,
Correct.
it's not even affecting the budget we're in right now.
I understand, but that's why I said we had a conversation 2 weeks ago. We didn't include the projection for funding this when we had our meeting with the Budget Advisory Board. That's why I said I wish we discussed this before, so we could see it wasn't a priority of ours to fund this.
It's not too late.
No, it's not too late, but I
What-
kind of wish
so-
it came before, because we do have to fund it if we fund it.
So if I understand you correctly, if we did not give the 3% COLA, then there would be $2 million, $2+ million extra in our budget, because we've already allocated.
Right, so what we have included in payroll projections right now is the ARC, or the annual required contribution. And depending on how that changes, it would increase or decrease the requirements in the funds.
Right,
So
so
if they're saying it would increase by 1.9 million or 2 million, we'd have to include that in the 23 budget.
I get that.
Okay.
Has that already happened?
No, so right now, all of our budgets that we're developing include the amount that the actuary report told us we had to put in the budget. That's what our
Right.
current service level budget includes.
Does that include the 3% COLA? No. So to Commissioner Moritas' point, we would be adding another couple of
Yes.
$1 million. There'd be approximately a $2 million impact to our general fund requirements if we gave a 3% COLA increase.
I think around half of it would be general fund, whatever the number is that it
And half will
increased.
come from an
Around
enterprise
half of
funds?
it would be the general fund, and half would be water, sewer, building fund, all of the other funds, depending on where the employees that are enrolled in GERS live.
Is that a common practice to take money out of those enterprise funds for retirement compensation?
Yes, so wherever the so if I am an employee of the water and sewer fund, my payroll and benefits are paid for from the water and sewer fund.
Okay.
So it depends on where the employee is housed or funded.
You might want to have that conversation with your new P3 people.
So when you said that it would be paid for,
Okay.
You made a statement at the very beginning of your presentation that based on the returns that we're experiencing in the retirement fund, that this ask could be covered by the income we've already received or plan to receive. How does that square with the statement that $1 million may have to come from the general fund?
I apologize for any misunderstanding, but what I was trying to communicate is that our funding level, the required funding, was going to decrease by $1.9 million. So if we maintain the same amount of contributions that went into the plan the prior year, that we could fund this COLA.
Okay. Any questions?
Mayor, this is Ben.
Yes, Vice Mayor.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor, and sorry for y'all for being virtual. One of our daughters has COVID, so just trying to steer clear of you all for the day. I support trying to find a way to make this work, the COLA increase. So I just, obviously budget ramifications are important to consider. So I'd like to kind of move forward with exploring the possibilities for this, Mayor. That's it.
Is this a vote we have to take today, or no? It's not a vote. It's just a sense. Okay, because the Budget Advisory Board will have to weigh in on this at some point.
Yep.
Well, it will come to a vote, and when would the vote come? Would it be part of the budget process or part of a separate process?
I think it's
I
part
think
of the
we're going to
budget.
need some direction as we put the budget together. because
Okay, I
of
think you
funding
have a
implications,
consensus to-
so-
No, wait, no, we don't, actually. I'm not going to vote for it, so you don't have a unanimous. So if you want 4 out of 5, you have to come up with 13 million.
Do you need 4 out of 5? Is that what it is?
We would need everybody to amortize it.
But we're not voting right now anyway. We're just saying move forward with more
That's the direction.
information.
So if you want
I
to,
could use some feedback, so as we build the budget, we build it correctly, and we
Right.
account for those expenses that would be expended. But it sounds, we're not asking for a vote, but it sounds right, it sounds as though the feedback I'm hearing right now is that this is not a unanimous commission on the topic.
Oh, we're not unanimous, but I don't know if we're, well, there's only 4 of us here, but are we,
I guess I'd
are
look
we,
to
are we
Nick.
3 out of 4 that we would consider
In
this?
order to amortize, you need a unanimous vote, correct?
Unanimous, yes, sir.
Right.
and I'm not supporting that.
Maybe we can wait till after November 8th.
Wait till after November. You're gonna can't counting down the days.
Chris, is amortizing it the only option?
No, you can pay a lump sum, and the amortization was the softer, easier, but the lump sum to fund it would be $13.5 million.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, let's move on.
I just did want to, just one final statement, Mayor, because, you know, when you look at these numbers and you look at the dollar amounts and you look at our budget, overall budget, it's really not that significant. And I'm sort of smiling to myself because I'm thinking, oh, I could just see if the police or fire did not get a cost of living in 21 years. Oh, that would go over really great, right, Commissioner Moritas? So that's my final statement. Thank
Well,
you.
they bargain for their pensions, and and I know there are 3 criteria that need to be met and everything else.
I understand.
And I've done this research for many years now in a row, and I have the same opinion today that I did in the
Right,
past.
but
And-
GERS has met the first 2 criteria, and now the 3rd criteria is up to us. That's all. I'm just strongly disagreeing with you, that's all.
I'll
Yes,
just
as
advise-
we often do.
I'll just advise that for purposes of today, again, since you're not voting, the supermajority is needed for the ultimate vote. If a majority of the commission, not a supermajority, but a majority of the commission wants to give the city manager direction to look into it or somehow calculate some numbers to see what those ramifications would be, you can do that. The supermajority is for the ultimate vote.
All right, well, I
Is it
think-
supermajority or unanimous? I've heard unanimous, and then I've heard supermajority.
Well, one has to do with the amortization
Right.
procedure versus the
Right.
allocation.
My understanding is supermajority, which would be the 4 votes.
For the lump sum
Or-
and unanimous for the amortization.
Gotcha.
That's my understanding.
All right, if a commissioner is absent from a meeting, does it have to be 4 votes? No, I'm saying because Commissioner McKenzie's not here.
He's here.
Can it be 3 and 1, or
I
does that?
just heard his voice.
He's here.
Okay, all right. All right, you have a majority of what's sitting here today to move forward and come back to us with it. All right, so I've been asked to jump to CF1 because Commissioner Moritas is got to leave the meeting early. And so if it's okay with everybody, the other 2 items we can get to, I know Commissioner Glassman is eager to talk about business 2, but we'll get there in just a moment.
Where are we going, Mayor?
We're going to CF1, this is the
Okay.
Joint Government Center.
Yes.
So let me just begin this conversation. Hi, Commissioner. So as many of you know, the previous commission was asked to convene a working group, which I and then Assistant City Manager Chris Lagerbloom, Alan Cohen, who's an Assistant County Administrator, and then Chip LaMarca, we would meet, the 4 of us would meet from time to time to discuss the possibility of putting together a joint government center. This is, like I said, when I was still a commissioner. And we had a number of meetings, various different ideas were circulated, and it got to a point where, as you all know, this commission participated in creating a joint government group, and we, as you know, we all met. We met multiple times, and every time we met with the county commission, if I recall correctly, we all had unanimous votes on just about all the issues. In particular, on June 18th of 2019, we approved the RFQ for consulting services. while on a dual track for analyzing the unsolicited proposal from AECom Group. Then a few months after that, in October, we accepted proposals for consulting services and ranking. In December of that year, the decision to hire Ziskovich for consulting services. COVID hit then. There was a little bit of a break. And then in October of 2020, we accepted the design criteria package from Ziskovich. And then we last met in June of 2021. And the idea was to put the RFP out there for solicitation. And that never really happened. It was supposed to happen in August of last year. And so the joint group never really met. We made numerous efforts to try to get the county and the city commissions to vote, to meet directly. And unfortunately, it didn't happen. In the meantime, the county decided to have a workshop a couple of weeks ago. And I don't know how many of you had a chance to listen in on it, but I took the time. I also took the time. It was about 2.5 hours, but I listened to it. And
2:45.
And I noticed a few things. First of all, I noticed that there wasn't a lot of unanimity on some of the issues. For example, we all thought that they actually wanted the Joint Government Center to be downtown, and yet there were a number of commissioners who had indicated that, maybe downtown's not such a good place, as they reminded us that they were dismembering their central operations, like supervisor of elections was being sent to another city, the property appraiser's office was being sent to another location, the tax collector's office will soon be sent to another location. So there were a number of concerns about their own space needs. And so that was an issue that came up. And there was a number of other issues regarding management of the building and stuff like that. But the one thing that seemed to concern them, and I think us as well, is the cost of this project. And putting aside all the other issues about needs criteria, design, management, and all of that, I really feel that we should talk as a commission about the impact of the cost. Now, Mr. Cohen is here, which is great because you could probably give us some specifics should we need them. But it seems that the cost of this project exceeds $800 million, and that's without including the bus station and the area that is specifically the county would pay for. But in terms of the city, if we're using $800 million as a number, we are being assigned 43%, I believe, of the space. So if you do the math, 43% of $800 million is a lot of money. It's $360 million. That's a lot of money, I think. And someone told me it's over $2,000 a square foot based on the amount of square footage that we were going to be needing. And as I spoke with a lot of developers and I told them, $2,000 a square foot, it really, it kind of blew their minds as much as it concerns me. So I want to hear from, if we could, the rest of the commission. I'm not sure this is where we need to keep going. I don't want to impose the taxpayers of our community with a cost that is so high that we can't find an alternative. And maybe at the end of this discussion, we could ask the city manager to come back to us with alternatives. Because I really feel that while a lot of work has gone into this, the bottom line is the bottom line, and it's just very, very expensive. So I'll start all the way to my left,
Mayor,
Commissioner. Ben, I'm going to start with Commissioner Moritas, and we'll go across the.
He may be at your left. He's home. He may be at the left. He may be in your far left.
He can go. I'm happy to.
Oh, no, go ahead. I was just going to ask.
Vote on undisclosed location.
Yes. No, go with Heather first. The only thing I was going to ask, Mayor, is just for if Alan can just chime in. Are we working with the right numbers and just any feedback on those numbers?
You come up to the podium and see if am I close?
I've got the slide pulled up, Mayor, while Alan's coming to the podium. And so what was shared was a total project cost of $828 million. And of that, the city share $356 million. So that's the number that's the baseline that I'm starting from that was presented at the county meeting.
Are those numbers pretty close?
Those are numbers there, those are conservative numbers that were developed by our construction management division.
Okay, when you say conservative numbers, that means that those numbers were presented to this county commission based on what point in time would you say? Was it like as of last week, last month, as of January? When do you think those numbers were promulgated?
Those numbers were developed a matter of weeks ago.
Okay. And there was some concern, as I recall, on the county commission that those, like you say, were conservative and costs of construction continue to increase and those numbers may actually go higher. Was that opinion expressed by the county commission?
No, sir, it's actually the opposite.
Opposite.
When I say conservative, I'm saying the numbers that we presented are most likely considerably higher than what the market's going to come in with.
I see. Okay. Okay. All right. So, Commissioner Moritas, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I'm just thinking about, just why did we initially go down this path of having a joint government center with the city and county? Just kind of help me understand.
The reason, I'll tell you. The reason was we thought we could perhaps benefit from efficiencies, cost efficiencies.
Okay.
By having, security was a big thing several years ago, as it still is. By having a single entrance, by having, there are a number of things that we could combine our operations that would allow for us to save money as government. So that was really the impact. That was really the motivation for doing a joint government center.
So if that was the motivation, but it's not the result, maybe we need to see if there is another motivation? Another reason? Another? That's kind of it, right? Yeah.
Has the whole idea become waylaid by things that we did not consider or anticipate in terms of like construction costs?
Right. So it sounds like the main reason why we wanted to do this was some efficiencies. I'm just wondering, does it help the public to have one location where they can come with the city and county? I don't know.
The problem is, Commissioner, where's Mr. Cohen? Oh, as I listened to that workshop, they're dismembering. They're centrally located.
Yes, I know. They're all moving to Uptown, actually, right?
Which one are they putting uptown?
I think the supervisor of election and the two of them, and Marty Care, right? Marty.
Property appraiser?
Yeah, property appraiser and supervisor of election. I think one more is going up there. Just two of them off of Commercial, so in the Uptown area. So maybe that might be a good place for a joint government center. Maybe we just found the answer. Maybe it is Uptown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but in terms of the central location.
Okay, let's come back to
their needs assessment. They did talk about redoing their needs assessment. I mean, honestly, instead of it being 57-43, it may flip where because they're removing more of their operations, we may end up being the majority tenant, or the majority owner. But putting that issue aside, the cost is still.
Right, so the cost is high, so we are hoping to have some cost savings, and we're not realizing any cost savings. So are there other reasons why we should do this, is what I'm trying to kind of ask myself. We've started on this process, but doesn't mean we can stop it. So is that enough of a reason to continue just because we started? I don't know. I know we have spent money, so does it make more sense just to continue? And I don't really have these answers. I'm just asking myself questions out loud. I'm kind of 50-50, I will tell you that to start with. If you all strongly said you wanted your own, our own city hall, I would support that. If the rest of the body was really strongly in favor of the joint, government center, I'd support that too. I think there are pros and cons of both. If we ultimately decide or get the data that shows we could do it for a lot less expensive, $2,000 a square foot is more than a lot of luxury homes, so that's expensive. I don't think we can go back to our constituents and the taxpayers and say we're spending that money. So I think that in itself is a reason why we should probably at least get an estimate for a building on our own property. I'm assuming it would probably be here or.
Well, so that was actually when I thought about this. I thought maybe we should, but I'm going to hear from everybody. But
Right.
one of my recommendations would be, let's ask the city manager to come back to us with recommendations as to alternatives that would allow us to still have a building space that was better than what we have today, whether it be new construction or existing structure. And what are the options as he would investigate that for us, maybe by our next meeting or the meeting after. You'll still be here, right?
I will.
And give us some alternatives because so let's all see what everybody wants, but I share your opinion.
Sure. So I guess I could go either way if we maybe could get a little bit more data and get some plans about where it would be and how much it would cost. And I think if the cost savings is greatly reduced, we probably don't have any other choice but to build it ourselves.
Right.
On our own. That's just my opinion.
Commissioner McKenzie,
I really just.
who's looking dapper again, everybody?
I really don't know where we are because it was my understanding we were supposed to go back and have another meeting jointly. That's my first question. Are we going back to have a meeting, to sit at the table, to really see where they are, not he say, she say, they said. So I have a better understanding of, what it is I'm going to be directing staff to do instead of just arbitrarily, jumping ship because I haven't heard anything from anybody. I hear us discussing what we want to do. So I really would like to get back in the room, number one, because we've invested initial dollars to get started, to hear that from the folks from across the street. Chris, you're in constant communication with Monica. I mean, she's the head now over there in terms of the administration. I mean,
I talked to her within the hour. And
I just need to know, I want to be able to make an informed decision based on me sitting in a room with the people I started out with. And if we all agree to disagree, then I'm okay with that to start moving in a different direction because that's how I started out. So that's where I am.
So what she relayed to me an hour ago was that if the question got brought up, if the county was still interested in doing this, and we were up against this deadline to have this cohabitation agreement done, that if we can get that done and present that to the bodies and they're satisfied with it, that the county does still, in fact, have interest in participating and pursuing this project. So that was the county's position as of an hour ago.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
Chris, what is, oh, sorry, go ahead, Commissioner.
Oh, go ahead, please.
Wait. Commissioner Glassman?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. So like you, I did watch the full meeting at the county on May 5th. It was very interesting to listen. I would start off by saying that, first of all, Alan, I thank you for all of your work on this. This has been a tremendous amount of work, and I understand it's been a long process for us. And I did start off very enthusiastic because I thought that there would be real opportunity here to have significant cost savings by building this in conjunction with each other. But my takeaway from the May 5th meeting was, first of all, it's very clear that, and I want to be delicate about this, but a majority of the county commissioners seem to just feel superior. They speak in tones and they use words like, I'm irritated driving into Fort Lauderdale, and when it comes to this cohabitation agreement, the superior government will decide. And I'm just thinking, wow, this is an interesting group to get into a partnership with because they don't seem to view us as an equal partner. And I took notes because I just thought it was really interesting listening to the language that was being used. That being said, I think a couple of ideas came forward from that meeting that made sense. I like the idea of maybe looking at adding floors and renting out space. There are ways to offset the cost of this building, which right now, to me, the cost is astronomical and would not fly. I wouldn't even think it's fair to present it to the taxpayers and saying, this is what we're doing. That being said, I do think there are creative ways to offset those costs, and that did come up at the county commission meeting. There might be lots of opportunity for folks that want to have space in a building such as this.
But wouldn't that just add to the cost by adding more floors?
Well, but again, it depends on the price that you would get and the type of rental agreement you would get, I'm not so sure. I'm not the expert there, but yes, it would cost more to add the floors, but you might recoup that 10 times in rental. I mean, you have to look at the long game, not just the short-term construction costs. Again, that would have to be studied. There are ways to look at that. I don't know, Chris, but have we ever looked at the costs that we would incur if, number one, we were to build our own building, and number two, what that might entail in terms of us, if it was going to be on this site, obviously to take advantage of an already existing garage, this building would be demolished. We would have to move somewhere, so we would have to rent somewhere. Have we factored in all of this on our own end as a plan B?
Yeah, we absolutely have. And so we've always thought we needed a plan B, maybe even a C. But, there's some rules of thumb that you can use when you build new things. And so I've gone to the development community and said, what do you build for new as a high rise per square foot? And you eliminate the land cost if you look at pieces of land that we own. And really it's a between $800 and $900 a square foot on a multiplier, and you take the number of square feet that you need, you can get in the ballpark. And
What do
so,
we need, 260,000 square feet?
Oh, no, like 150 to 175.
Okay.
Would probably be in that sweet spot. So, I mean, then it just becomes a mathematical, at a very high level, just a straightforward mathematical equation. And obviously then there's demolition costs. If we were to choose this site and want to build here, this building has to go away, and we have to temporarily relocate somewhere. So there are some added costs to making those supplemental decisions. But yes, if the commission directed that they wanted their own city facility, I would encourage that we look at land we already own so that we don't add land costs, especially in the downtown at this point in time. But we could certainly put something together for you, and could do it pretty quickly. It's not.
I think that would be really important to see what we're talking about if we were thinking of going to a plan B. As it stands right now, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the county's last meeting is June 14th before they take the break for the summer. And they did want to see some sort of cohabitation operational agreement with the city so that we would know exactly who was going to control what and how decisions were going to be made, and was there going to be a third party that might have to mediate any disagreements between the city and the county, and who was raising the flag, and who was going to have to wear a mask and not wear a mask, and how was that all going to work out. I mean, it sounds like getting into the weeds, but the conversation was interesting to listen to, and it made me think, wow, this might be a tough partnership. This might be like one of those reality roommate shows. I mean, I can only imagine what could happen. There are so many things that you could think of that would happen, and then how does that all get resolved? I'm not sure. So I guess I'm still, the door for me is still a little bit open, because I want to see what that cohabitation agreement would look like. I want to see what a plan B would look like if we did go out on our own, and I just want to have some assurances moving forward. Let's face it, expense has not just been on our end or the county's end. We put a lot of companies through a lot of expense too. Just think of all the proposals. Think of everything that we've seen, the bids that went out, folks that have responded. So a lot of people have spent a lot of time and money to this point. So I guess, Mayor, for me, the door is still open to doing this if the numbers work out and it makes economic sense. It's just that the door is not as open.
These are the numbers, though. These are
Right. No, I understand. No, we still have to refine
feel
that.
that these numbers make economic sense as been presented.
I don't know. I mean, I know what Alan said in terms of he thinks that these numbers are higher than they'll come in, but who knows? That's such a, iffy thing. We know what construction costs are now and what's happened this past year, but I don't know. I think we just need more information at this moment in time. By the way, I did take a little bit of a different take on listening. I think that what I had heard from most of the county commissioners were, in terms of moving out west, it wasn't necessarily moving a joint governmental center campus out west. I think they were talking in terms of, if this partnership did not happen, they would like to build something new out west, not necessarily want to see the joint government campus go out west. That was my take in listening to them, which I think is a mistake, actually. I just think of Fort Lauderdale as you know,
County
the
seat.
county seat.
County seat?
County seat. I just think that, you know, these offices, this should be, you know, recognized for that kind of a building. So even if they didn't have the joint government center campus with us, I still think.
Okay,
But anyway, that's my take on it. Thank you.
all right. Vice Mayor?
Thanks, Mayor. Just some questions to start off. Chris, so tell me about the operational agreement that Monica's interested in, or how that would develop, and what kind of legal restrictions that would impose.
Yeah, so she's talking about what we have termed this cohabitation agreement. I've jokingly called it a prenup. It's the document that we've been working on for some time as to how we each would interact with each other in the building, so that we could resolve disputes to the extent a dispute might exist, and how we would function. There's been a significant amount of time invested at this point into putting that document together. Significant amount of staff time, attorney time. I think we're nearing, and I'm looking over now, since you're not in the room, towards Alan and Susan to nod one way or the other, saying they think it's close. They're both nodding yes, that they think that this document is close. But that's the document that Monica's referring to.
And if I can just add in, though, not to rain on anyone's parade, but we may be close, but there's a lot of, and Mr. Cohen will probably disagree with me, but it's almost a cart before the horse, even though it's being demanded prior to moving forward, because there's a lot of issues regarding, let's say, ownership. Who's going to own this building? That's going to dictate a lot of how this partnership is going to work within the building from a legal standpoint, an operational standpoint. So there's a lot of issues. You know, I've heard a lot of voices from the county side indicating that we would be a tenant and not an owner. They own the land, granted, but how is the building? Is it going to be a condominium? Is it going to be, how's it going to be split? Those things are going to be important when it comes time to figuring out what roles each entity plays and what sort of framework is going to be in place for some of the more policy-driven decisions that we've experienced in the past, and some which we're just trying to anticipate. So, although we may be close to some kind of draft, I think it's going to be very difficult for us to put anything of real value before having those questions answered.
And I think, just to follow up with what Mr. Boileau is saying, there will be certain situations in which a decision has to be made with regard to a policy, and I believe the county wants to reserve onto themselves the right to make that final choice, and that we would have to take a submissive role in that. And you heard that many times, that they feel they're the superior government, and that their decision should overrule anything that we want, and that, you know, and we need to agree to that before they go on their recess. That's the management agreement that everyone's talking about, and Mr. Boileau is correct. We may be tidying up a lot of the smaller details, and it may seem like we're getting close, but that ultimate dispute resolution approach has not yet been agreed upon. And what really bothers me, again, is they're thinking they're the superior government. While that technically may be correct, we're talking about just, you know, occupying a building. We're not talking about governance per se, but governance does play into this, and that's where we have to make a decision from a policy position as to what role we want to take or are willing to take in the case of a situation where there is a dispute, and how that dispute is resolved. Now, part of the discussion had to do with there being the larger occupier of the building. Based on the conversation I was hearing, as you did also, Commissioner Glassman, they're talking about doing a new needs assessment. And if that new needs assessment shows that they've diminished their needs, so that our need is greater than their need, I'm wondering now who's the superior owner in terms of the one who occupies this larger space. If we find ourselves being the majority occupant of that building, does that delegate to us the right to dictate the policy in the building. I suspect they won't see it that way because they see themselves as the county and we're just one of 31 cities, and that we're supposed to submit to their point of view when it comes to, whatever it is that there may be a deadlock in any decision. So I'm concerned about our spending any more time on this, when we still haven't resolved the cost issue. But I'm going to let the vice mayor continue his questioning, because I think a lot of these questions need to be fleshed out.
Yep. Thanks, Mayor. So, Chris, in terms of the operational agreement, so are we working with Broward County attorneys or team members on doing this, working on this operational agreement together?
Yes.
Okay. Is it articulated in the operational agreement kind of who is the subservient government, or how one defers to the other?
No, we basically, again, last iteration I saw, it's not an agreement that's in draft. It's an outline of issues. So again, Mr. Cohen can correct me, or Susan can correct me, but the last iteration I saw was an outline. So there's no agreement. Those decisions have not been made.
Okay.
I'm going to ask Susan to come to the podium too. She's been our representative working with the county on it, so she can speak to our position.
Okay, great. Thanks.
And as you said, it is in outline form. We've been working on it for quite some time. And what it deals with is the governance structure of how decisions are made. And what we're looking at now is something that might have 4 levels, starting with the O&M provider, who is that third party that we hire to run the building. The level on top of that would be operating and maintenance committee that would meet monthly. It would have 6 reps total, 3 from the city, 3 from the county, and then the O&M provider would be the non-voting member. If they couldn't decide on something, the next level it would go up to is the 2 CEOs. That would be the city manager and the county administrator. And if those 2 groups couldn't, or those 2 couldn't agree, then it would come to the body of elected officials, which would be the city and the county. The item that was general.
What happens if they can't agree?
Pardon me.
And what happens if they can't agree?
Did we have? Well, at that point, what is it, Alan? Is that arbitration or mediate? That's mediation. That happens after that. So that's mostly it for operations.
But was the issue ever raised in emergency situations?
And
you don't have the luxury of time to go through all that process?
Correct. And then there was a specific set of circumstances in emergencies where if the parties did not agree, that the county would have the ability to make the decision. And Alan Boileau had talked about how we would address that from our perspective.
Right, because there's and not to bring back the past, but the perfect example we dealt with, for example, the curfew during COVID, right? We completely disagreed with it from a legal standpoint. So if this county comes back and says, nope, there's a curfew, we're the final say, you as a governing body now have to be subservient to, and despite what you want to do as a legislative body, can't do that. So we're going to have to, again, we haven't worked out those problems. Same thing with the mask issue, with security. Who's handling security? Is it a third party? Is it FLPD? Is BSO involved? There's all these different little things that the big decisions that we've in the past have sort of had to struggle with in this unsolicited pandemic we had, kind of brought some of those issues to light, and those things would have to be obviously, because same thing during a hurricane. Various issues can come up. We have our emergency center, they have theirs. We may not always see eye to eye on how we deal with the emergency, so those things would have to be in place. I don't know that we can do that between now and, June 8th or whatever it is.
June 20-something.
So, Chris, when is Monica saying she wants the operating agreement done?
Yeah, she mentioned that we were in a 5-week window, and I think we were in week 3 of that 5, so we have another couple. Yes, I'm getting yeses.
I think the 4th is their last meeting, and they said at the county commission meeting on the 5th that they wanted to have that by the time they broke for the summer.
Let me see, Mr. Cohen is approaching the podium here, so let's see if he's got something to weigh in.
Yep, thanks.
What our board asked for was not a full agreement, but a term sheet, and not a full term sheet representing all of the issues, but a term sheet that focused on governance and dispute resolution. They want to know that at least we can come to terms on that, and then they're ready to move forward.
Okay. And Chris, with that kind of ask or expectation, how close do we are to that, or Chris or Alan?
So I'm going to defer again to Susan and to Alan.
Okay.
I'll speak from the legal perspective, but it sounds as though the heads were going the right direction. So you think we're close, Susan, yes?
I think we're close, but I think we'll need every minute of that time frame.
Okay. And then from a legal perspective, do we have significant hurdles that take longer than a couple weeks to get through? I know your guess is as good as mine, but
I mean, I think so. I think it's highly optimistic that we can do that in a couple of weeks. Because it's going to take working with the county attorney's office, which again, we get along great, but we don't necessarily always see eye to eye on that. And if it comes down to ultimately the county going to have, at the end of the day, the superior voice, then that's going to be an issue that I don't think we're going to be able to handle on our level, obviously.
But where are we seeing that, Alan? Because that's not expressed in the agreement, is it?
There's no
right now?
agreement. First of all, there's no agreement.
Well, the term sheet, Alan, the outline, Alan, that we're working.
It's not necessarily written, but it comes up all the time, and we can talk about it offline. But it's on every level of business we do with the county. Again, we get along with the county. It's very good. But at the end of the day, it's usually what the county wants, regardless of what we want. So, and that goes across the board, whether it's surtax, whether it's penny tax, whatever it is. So I'm just telling you from a realistic standpoint, this is kind of what we come across when we're dealing on these legal negotiations, regardless of what they are. And it doesn't happen easily or quickly. That's why I'm just concerned that within this amount of time that we have, we can certainly give it our best shot, but I'm not overly optimistic.
So, okay, thanks, Alan. So, Chris, sequentially, what is the idea is the county would like to see a term sheet, an outline in a couple weeks. Then what, and maybe this is to Alan Cohen, but then what happens? What's the idea is what would happen next?
So I think it was in the context of at least one of their commissioners making the comment that if we didn't have the term sheet before they went on a break, that they should put something on their agenda to take other action, I think is the way I recall that happening at their meeting. A term sheet is something significantly less than an actual agreement. So just recognize that standard is much less.
Okay, so maybe Alan Cohen, let me try to ask you this question. So, Alan, if the county commission gets a limited overview term sheet in a couple weeks, then what happens?
My understanding from the discussion is our board would be ready to move forward with the issuance of the RFP.
Okay, and and then to Chris, if the county issues an RFP, are we part of that discussion before it's issued, or where do we?
We would be because we would have to have agreement on the same document term sheet that the county would have, and the RFP would issue for this joint government complex. It wouldn't be an RFP that would issue for anything else.
Okay. Does then Alan Boileau, does a term sheet legally bind us in any way as a city?
Well, it doesn't have the formalities of a contract, but anytime you put pen to paper and you put your intentions on there, someone will use that against you. It doesn't have the formalities of a contract, but
It's like an LOI. It's like an
it
LOI.
is. No, but that's a legitimate answer. You put something to paper, you put your
Well, you
intentions
sound like a
down,
lawyer. You sound like a lawyer.
There's no other way to answer it. Doesn't have the formalities of a contract, but somebody may put it in your face and try
Can
to use
and
it
will
against
be
you.
used against you.
Yes, exactly. Evidently. So, Mayor. Okay, thank you, Alan. So, Mayor, here's my thoughts or ideas for anyone's feedback or rejection. Is it seems to me like we could operate in parallel paths here at the same time. I think the idea of exploring, other alternatives for the city is worthwhile and valuable, especially to your point, Mayor, about the cost. And so, being able to evaluate what would it cost for us to do, if we were going to do our separate ways. And at the same time, moving forward with a term sheet, if we can get it to the Broward County Commission in a form that we feel comfortable with, exploring that possibility as well, to continue to explore this and possibly see where the next step after the term sheet might go in terms of RFP.
Okay. All right.
Mayor, I have a question for Chris. So Chris, with regards to, let's say this operational agreement gets hammered out, or at least to the extent that people are satisfied, county issues the RFP. Is this RFP detailed to the extent that we all know what our needs are, how we want to see this building constructed, what we need in this building? And also, Alan, from the county's perspective, we've reached that level of specificity so that we know what we're talking about for both entities?
This RFP is huge. This RFP is the document that we've been working on for the last several years.
Right.
And as soon as it issues, you made the comment about the significant amount of work that people have put into this project already. If this RFP issues, that's when the significant amount of work actually starts, because, and then we start to, there's even clauses in there where the firms that are not chosen are offered a stipend for their participation in the project itself, or in the process itself. So to issue the RFP is the huge step forward, and it's almost a step that once it issues, I think it would be disingenuous to try to walk back from that point forward.
Understood. Okay, thank you.
Okay, one more question. Just so I want to just jot down these numbers. Mayor, is Alan Cohen still there?
I have the numbers in front of me.
He keeps trying to talk, and I keep
I have
cutting him off. Sorry.
I have the numbers in front of me from their workshop. So the office tower is projected. Well, let me just put it this way: the city's share of the projected cost is $356 million.
356 million. Okay.
And if you divide that by the 150,000 square feet that I believe was our needs assessment, it comes out to $2,373 a square foot.
And is that okay? And then is that, Alan, is that what's built into the project is 150,000 for us square feet?
It's actually, Commissioner, technically more. The 150,000 in your needs assessment is your net usable space. What you also have to calculate is the gross unusable space, conveyance systems, mechanical areas and whatnot. And so there's additional square footage that's added to the 150, which yields a different per square foot cost.
So do you know how many square feet that?
I don't off the top of my head, sir, I'm sorry.
Okay,
Chris,
if you can get that,
yeah, do we have
go ahead, Mayor.
Actually,
do we have any way of knowing what that amount is?
Yes. What we had from the space study was 348,000 square feet.
348,000 square feet?
Yep, and then 579 spaces in the garage.
So it's more than double what the needs assessment is? That seems a little skewed.
Probably a very conservative number, and it is.
And that included the non-usable space.
That includes the non-usable, but that also brings the square foot price way down.
So,
You're paying for a lot of space you don't
Mayor,
need.
if I might, the number that Susan just cited includes the city's share of the common area as well. So the 150 is your dedicated office space, and then there's the proportional sharing of the common areas, the lobby, the loading dock, the cafeteria, all the meeting spaces, on and on. So that's where that higher 300,000.
I know, but that's still 200,000 square feet above and beyond the dedicated area for the city portion. It doesn't make any sense. I don't see where we have another 200,000 square feet of lobby, cafeteria, meeting room. I mean, this room is maybe what, 3,000 square feet, 4,000 square feet. I don't understand how we get 200,000 square feet of meeting area. This, I would, okay, whatever it
This
is.
building is 109, if it gives you a reference point.
What building's 109?
City Hall building we're in today.
Yeah, this whole building's 109.
Correct.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not finding that, I don't know where that number comes from, so.
Well, Chris, when you said, how much space do we need? You said it earlier, if we did build our own building, what were your projections?
I keyed in on that 150,000, which is the number that we know of the usable space we need, and that's why I gave a range of 150 to 175. Maybe it's 185.
So let's try to
By the time
maybe
you put
project
some, you
coffee
think about
shop
what
or
that
something,
might
yeah.
be extra floor-wise and what you might put on those floors. I mean, we would, again, admittedly, that's very back of the napkin. So, but it's ballparkish.
back of the napkin, 200,000 at the most?
So even if you were to go 200,000 and take your multiplier by 900, you're probably at 160 million. 160, 150.
What is that number?
No, that's probably more than that. It's probably about 100.
Say 200 million to be safe.
70 million. Let's see here.
So
I did 175 earlier, and it was 157 million. So let's say 200, and we'll go 900 a foot. There's 180 million.
Okay, so 200,000 square feet at the most, not 350,000 square feet that we currently have, that we're paying for in the Joint Government Center. 200 million at the most, not,
200 million, what's that number?
did I just?
What we think our standalone city hall would cost
Standalone.
us.
200
I did a very simple math formula, and it's very simple, but it was 200,000 times 900 a foot, and that sticks you in the $180 million range.
All right, so 200,000 square feet at the most, 200 million at the most, if we stayed in our own space and we don't have to build any parking spaces.
Right. Well, so, are you finished, Vice Mayor?
Yeah, that's it. I guess my only last question would be if Alan Cohen can, just get us as much as possible, some specifics or closer specifics around square footage and what's what. That'd be great if possible. Thanks, Mayor.
Okay. So, look, I listened to the members of the County Commission Board, and they're all very intelligent people, and they're all very well-meaning, and I know city staff has spent an awful lot of time trying to make this work. I think the effort was noble, but I personally cannot swallow the cost of this, and I think that by saying we should follow two parallel tracks, Vice Mayor, keep in mind that every time you say, let's continue to investigate, let's continue to work things out, this is costing the city and the county tens of thousands of dollars a week in terms of lawyer time and staff time. I think we need to stop the hemorrhaging here. We really need to realize how much money is really being poured into this effort. Even from today going forward, if we say that we want this to continue to be reviewed, to me, the cost is sticker shock. It's a non-starter. I don't even want to get into a management agreement. I don't even want to get into all the other issues because they are really moot when we have to first come to the realization that this building is far too expensive for us to contemplate. And I think that, I would never vote in favor of this joint government center based on the numbers that we've been given. It's not fair to think that this community would ever want to shoulder the burden of such a huge expense, and I don't think anyone believes that this is the best way to spend taxpayer money. So that's why I'm going to recommend, and I hope we all have the support of the commission, to direct the city manager to come back to us with recommendations, options of how we might proceed, and we can make a intelligent comparative analysis of what's best for the city, whether it be continuing to join with the county and moving forward with the process that we've started, whether it means to separate from the county and build our own building, freestanding on real estate that we already own, or to seek out options of existing buildings that might be available and how we might retrofit it to serve the purposes of City Hall and what that cost would be. I believe that's what we should ask the city manager to do, and I think that's really the best foot forward at this point.
I agree with you, Mayor.
Me too. And will that happen by our June
Do that by
7th
the
meeting?
next meeting? Can that happen
June
by the
7th?
next meeting?
Because I think the county said at their meeting, they need to know from us what we're doing before they split, and June 14th is their last meeting, I believe.
Yeah.
And while the city manager is looking for that, if, could we also get some feedback on the legal side? Because there's a meeting coming up on the 20th. Again, we're paying attorneys, outside attorneys, significant fees to work on the
I
RFP
think
and
that
so on
should
and so forth.
stop right now. I think we should put a hold on that because those significant fees are significant. And we're just squandering money that we may ultimately decide.
I think we have to make a final decision on June 7th.
Okay, but I think everything should be on hold.
I agree.
I
Okay.
agree.
All right.
Functionally,
That's fine.
so
So-
functionally, and that's okay to do that. I guess if we do put that on hold, then we are sort of, I don't know, then I really don't think we get this agreement done before the deadline.
Well,
June.
if we put it on hold, the only thing would be, I mean, if the commission wants us to come back.
I'm happy to come back at the next meeting with a recommendation on options, so we don't have to worry about that. I can easily do that.
Okay, that's good. And then, because honestly, as Alan Boileau has indicated, that even if things were to go forward at the same pace as they have been, we still don't know whether we would be successful in coming with the result that the county commissioners are expecting from us, and I agree with you. So why spin our wheels? Why spend the money? Let's just listen to your recommendations, come back with them, and then we can make a decision going forward. And I have a feeling the Board of County Commissioners agrees with me because they're not too keen on these numbers either, so, from what we heard, right? Yeah. All right.
I just have one question, Mayor, because we heard from Alan and also Susan that the operational agreement, the cohabitation agreement, was pretty much almost there. I mean, should we at least see what that looks like when we make our decision on June 7th? Is it important or not, or?
If cost becomes the pivotal
Yeah.
decision, I don't see what the point is.
Okay.
Yeah, then we don't need the prenup.
Yeah. All right. I think that's our decision, Mr. City Manager. All right?
Okay.
All right.
All right,
Thank you.
I'll be back with information.
Thank you, Heather, for being able to stay through this discussion. I appreciate it. All right, why don't we jump back to our agenda? Business 2, Solid Waste Working Group update. Who will be discussing that?
So this is a discussion in our Public Works Department. We'll let Melissa Doyle introduce it.
I know Commissioner Glassman's
I
waiting.
can't wait for maybe Commissioner Glassman can lead the presentation.
How about I can give a few words of introduction, if that's okay, before Melissa Doyle takes the microphone. As you know, I cannot thank the commission enough for appointing me to the Solid Waste Working Group, Broward County Solid Waste Working Group. And thank goodness we have someone like Melissa Doyle on staff who can really educate me and keep things moving. Because since you appointed me to this board, we actually have met 37 times, and we're still going strong. This is a huge, monumental task in front of us. Lots of intense discussion. These are folks from all over Broward County, elected officials, folks in the business. But we've been making a lot of progress, a lot of steady progress. We meet every 2 weeks. But we are looking towards the development of a regional solid waste authority with a focus on managing Broward County solid waste. And this will be for generations to come. So this is a very, very important project. So Melissa will be getting into a presentation, bring everyone up to speed on what's been happening up until this point. She'll get into a lot of the details. As you can imagine, the costs are going to be very, very heavy to support 2 million residents living in the county. So we're looking at significant costs. And there are still a lot of decisions ahead of us as a solid waste working group. So these discussions are related to what happens after we collect the materials from the homes and businesses. The working group and ultimately the to-be-created solid waste authority are focused on post-collection, processing, disposal. So the hauling activities will remain the responsibilities of the city. And that said, the development of solid waste infrastructure, what we're looking to accomplish is to improve the ability to collect and haul solid waste efficiently, cost-effectively, maintain and expand our solid waste and recycling programs, and ultimately preserves our ability to manage the materials independently as a collaborative body representing Broward County's interests. So a lot of information to share. Thank you for your patience. And again, I want to thank Melissa, and we'll all be available if there are any questions. So again, Melissa, thank you so much. So much appreciate your work in this field. Take it away.
Thank you, Commissioner. That's quite the introduction. I'm not sure I'm going to live up to that introduction, but I'm going to do my best. Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. Melissa Doyle with the Solid Waste Program here at the City of Fort Lauderdale, and it's truly been my pleasure to support both the city and Commissioner Glassman's efforts over the last several years with the Solid Waste Working Group. As the commissioners indicated, what we're going to be talking about today relate only to the disposal of solid waste. They don't involve collection activities, either residentially or commercially. The city will continue to retain its control over our curbside collections program. What we're discussing today and what the commissioner has been focused on with the working group is what happens with the solid waste after it's collected. So I'd like to start today's presentation with a little bit of Garbage 101 and take a short journey through how waste materials are handled from the generation point through the disposal. So simply put, there really is nothing simple about how we move garbage. When a collection truck picks up waste from a home or a business, these materials can be hauled to a transfer station where they're dumped, combined with other like materials, and then hauled in a ginormous tractor trailer to either a processing or a disposal facility. But these trucks can also move those materials to a recovered processing facility, which is a recycling plant, or they can take it to a landfill or a waste-to-energy incinerator. It's important to keep in mind that the Solid Waste Working Group is looking at how to manage all of our wastes that we generate here in Broward County, and that's every waste stream. This includes what you would normally think of like residential and commercial garbage, but it also includes bulk waste and electronics and hazardous waste and construction materials. So let me offer you a brief reminder about how we got here. In 1986, the city of Fort Lauderdale, along with what was ultimately 26 other cities, entered into an agreement with Broward County that directed our solid waste to assets that were owned by the Broward County Disposal Group and governed by the Resource Recovery Board. This agreement was key to the construction of 2 waste-to-energy incinerators that service the county. Many of you know those as the Wheelabrator plants, that came online in the early 90s at a price tag of $535 million. These bonds were repaid using user fees or tipping fees, what we pay when we dump at the facilities, and they were charged to the customers who brought their solid waste for disposal. This agreement expired in 2013 as the bonds used for those infrastructure investments had been repaid, and the Resource Recovery Board was allowed to sunset. Almost immediately following the expiration, Broward County was sued by 18 cities, including the city of Fort Lauderdale, who were seeking their share of the assets of the Resource Recovery Board. A settlement was reached in 2015, which included a $32 million payout, of which the city received roughly $5.2 million. Alpha 250, which is the sole remaining parcel of property still owned by the Resource Recovery Board, was to be sold as part of that settlement agreement. Fast forward to 2016, where the city approved the first amendment to this settlement agreement, delaying the sale of Alpha 250 and agreeing to a solid waste study, which would in part determine if there was a benefit to using this property for the purposes of disposal infrastructure. A second amendment to the settlement agreement in 2018 further extended the timeline for the sale of the property, and this allowed for the exploration of recommendations from the solid waste study. In 2019, the city confirmed its interest in collaborating towards the development of a regional solid waste system, designating Commissioner Glassman as its representative to the Solid Waste Working Group. This group was formed to begin drafting an outline of what a new solid waste system would look like. More recently this year, this commission agreed to participate in a solid waste generation and composition study, which will be used to determine what assets the new solid waste authority would need to build, how much material they would need to be designed to manage, and most importantly, how to pay for it all. You may recall we came before you almost exactly a year ago today and brought you a number of priorities the working group had been contemplating. I'm pleased to report that they have completed these milestones, including the renewal of the contract for disposal with the waste-to-energy plant, which now runs through 2028. They have already started negotiating the next contract with the plant and have secured a consultant to begin the waste generation and composition studies. 37 meetings and counting. Phew. Thanks again, Commissioner Glassman. So let's talk a little bit about the solid waste generation and composition studies and why they're important. What is the process? What information do we get from these studies, and what are the uses of the information gleaned? First, let's take a look at the generation study. SCS engineers, the consultant hired to perform both the generation and composition studies, will be performing the generation analysis using historical data as well as field analysis. Simplified, what they will do is calculate how much solid waste is generated in pounds by land use code taken from the property appraiser database, and this is done by parcel or property. The land use codes are then grouped by how much waste they generate for the purposes of a solid waste assessment. Let me provide an example. SES will partner with a commercial hauler who is servicing a dumpster at a fast food restaurant. The collection truck is outfitted with an onboard scale. That scale will actually weigh the dumpster at that fast food restaurant and report the weight of the contents of the container. This information, along with the weights of other like businesses, are then averaged to create what's called a generation factor. This is usually calculated for businesses in pounds per square foot. This factor is then used to develop a method by which to assess costs to the system users. A larger generator shares more of the burden of the costs as they are a larger user of the system. Residential is normally broken into pounds per home, with multifamily managed much like commercial because most multifamily are also serviced by dumpster. Keep in mind that this is being done countywide and not specifically just in the city of Fort Lauderdale, so the generation factor is averaged and can be used across the entire solid waste system. Here is an example of the generation factors, actually taken from Palm Beach County, that shows how the information may be reported. As much of the design of the Broward County soon-to-be-established authority follows the example set by Palm Beach County, successful since the 1990s, members of the working group felt this was the best approach to begin developing a funding mechanism to support the investments we'll need in this county. Outside of being a method by which users can share in the costs of this infrastructure, the generation factor is also used to help confirm our current countywide volumes. This is critical data, as the new authority and the working group decide what infrastructure is needed and how to scale those investments to best manage our waste into the future. The second study being performed is a waste composition analysis. This is the process, albeit quite glamorous, of sorting through waste to identify what is being thrown away, and yes, it is done through manual sorting. This information collected from the composition study will be used to identify what types of facilities make sense to manage the materials being generated. It also influences educational programs and messaging, and ultimately, both the composition and generation studies are used as building blocks for what will be the authority's master plan.
Can I just interrupt you for a second? So all garbage is sorted through? All garbage is sorted through like this?
For the purposes of the composition study, what they do is a sample.
Just for the study?
Correct, just for the study. They do a sample, and that sample is then extrapolated to represent what the total makeup is of the solid waste generated throughout the county.
Okay, sorry.
Of course. The Solid Waste Master Plan is one of several next steps being considered by the authority. Others include financial projections and revenue requirements, tipping fee surcharge development, and rate planning. So this is the second briefing to you regarding the Solid Waste Working Group and their activities. I wanted to take a moment to walk you through who the working group are before we look at how the new Solid Waste Authority is proposed to be structured. You'll see that the working group is comprised of elected officials from municipalities across the county. Members are selected from the most populous or large cities, as you'll see, Commissioner Glassman, medium cities, small cities, and a single representative from Broward County. There are a total of 9 voting members, with the group currently chaired by Mayor Ross from Cooper City. One of the first orders of business for the working group was to establish a mission statement, which summarizes the efforts of the working group in the areas of focus for the authority. At the heart of this mission is the commitment to collaborate as a transparent, unified body for a long-term strategy to maintain and manage the county's solid waste. The progress made in working towards this mission is getting quite a bit of attention. From radio talk shows to the newspapers to the local television news, these efforts to form a new solid waste authority to create a better way of managing our solid waste is creating quite the buzz. The feedback from stakeholders following this process has been largely positive and optimistic that an appropriate path has been forged. Keys to making sure that everyone's interests are considered, the proposed governance for the new authority largely mirrors that of the current Solid Waste Working Group. The governing body will be made up of all municipalities who decide to participate. Second, they will be looking to establish a special assessment to fund these facilities and programs using the information developed during the waste generation and composition study. And lastly, they will need a mechanism to direct volumes to these facilities, also known as flow control. So there are several options the authority might consider as it begins to develop future infrastructure. You'll see these options here along with their estimated price tags. The discussions so far have been largely supportive of a new waste-to-energy plant and a recovered material processing facility or recycling plant as being the most urgent needs. Discussions have also included adding an additional boiler to the existing waste-to-energy plant, which is currently owned and operated by WinWaste, a private company. So what's next? The new authority members would need to adopt the master plan by a supermajority of the governing body by population. Additionally, until a special assessment is in place, costs related to the authority would be borne by the participating cities, following largely the same methodology we used when the solid waste generation and composition studies were considered. These costs would be related to the master plan itself, the hiring of an executive director to lead the effort, and other related expenses. Lastly, participating municipalities will need to internalize waste volumes to the authority assets. So, finally, the Solid Waste Working Group is finishing its draft of an interlocal agreement that will be sent to each municipality for legal review and comment. In the coming months, this ILA will come before this commission for consideration and, if approved, will confirm the city's desire to participate in this authority as the county's largest system user. Before we move to questions and any closing comments from Commissioner Glassman, I wanted to share that while we have been focused in this discussion on disposal and understanding there have been some recent concerns, we do also have a representative here from Republic. Republic is our current vendor for garbage and yard waste collections. We're happy to take any questions or comments.
Commissioner Glassman, do you have anything you wanted to add?
No, I'm fine. I think Melissa's covered it, perfectly, and we've given you a lot of information. And
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I just ask a question? I keep asking this question of Republic, of everybody who's been a vendor for the city over the years. What are the chances of our being able to separate out recyclables at the commercial level? I know that they're all sort of thrown in the same bin, and I guess they're all sent to the wheelabrator, and they're all like burnt up, or are they put in a landfill? What efforts do you think can be made to try to undertake a recycling program for businesses?
So commercial businesses are currently not required to recycle in the city of Fort Lauderdale. However, many do participate. Those that do participate are required to have a contract with one of the city's licensed haulers. I believe we have a total of 14 currently. Those licensed haulers are required to deliver those materials to a recycling processing facility. Unfortunately, a number of the haulers do not currently accept glass. And the reason that they don't is glass tends to be at a cost. It is a negative market value, somewhere usually around $17.50 per ton. So some of the businesses and some of the haulers have made the decision that that glass is not worth that effort, and instead they choose to treat it as a residual or divert it to the landfill. So that would be potentially something that could become a policy decision, and that could be brought to you by form of an ordinance or by contract in our hauler's licensing agreement. But again, we don't require commercial recycling at this point in time in the city of Fort Lauderdale, although that is something that we could consider.
Do you have an estimate as to what percent of the commercial enterprises in our city do participate in a recycling program?
I would not probably offer a guess because it probably wouldn't be accurate.
Yeah. Okay. Commissioner Moritas, do you have any questions?
I really don't. I just want to say thank you, and thank you, Commissioner Glassman, for taking this on for our city. And I know it is an important issue. I mean, not very glamorous, but I know it's important, so thank you for your work.
Okay, Commissioner McKenzie.
Not really, but I want to add to your commercial recycling efforts as I think about my industry. And I do notice that a lot of the like shopping centers, grocery stores, Walmarts and things that they have separation of paper and other goods, and I think it's because of how it weighs down their normal dump costs, and they can separate it out and get a discount. So I just pay attention to it, especially since you brought it up. A lot of them are putting forth the effort. I don't know are all of them participating in it, but I notice a lot of commercial property.
The big ones
have 2 or 3 bins there. So,
well, it'd be
I
great.
don't know. Have an answer would be nice to know.
I know it'd be great if we had if this commission considered a program requiring it, because so many plastic water bottles and you say glass is it's too expensive to recycle compared to the recovery, but we've got to make a decision as a society. As we're trying to continue, we're on this this path to destroying our earth, and we have to realize that there is a cost for saving our earth, and being able to recycle as much as possible needs to be factored into what things cost these days. And I just think that recycling as much as we can, especially if there's a process to recycle. Not everything can be recycled. I understand there's a difference between a recycling product and a recycling material. So, but I think that it would behoove us as a commission and as a community to try to recycle as much as possible. And I applaud all those businesses that do participate in that, because it really, especially the big places, like you said, Walmart, and places that do generate a lot of recyclable materials and dispose of them as a recycled product. I thank them, but it's a lot of the smaller businesses that probably make up most of the recyclable product that could be recycled that are just dumped. So if they're just put in the regular garbage, what happens to them? They're just incinerated?
It goes to the incinerator.
Okay. Commissioner Glassman, you've already spoken. Commissioner Sorensen, Vice Mayor Sorensen, do you have any thoughts you'd like to add?
Hey, thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Commissioner Glassman and Melissa. What, in terms of the commercial piece, what would be the possible solutions to that, Mayor or Melissa or Commissioner Glassman?
Well, we'd have to work with our current haulers. Republic has spoken to us multiple times. They've pushed back. You know, originally a lot of our recyclable materials were being sent overseas, I think to China. China is no longer accepting them, it hasn't done that for several years now. And they're looking for other ways to recycle. Who's here from, you said someone's here from Republic?
We do. We have Darren Hinderleiter, who is
Oh, there you are. I didn't see.
division manager for Republic.
I didn't even see you. How are you?
Good, sir. My name's Darren Hinderleiter with Republic Services.
So tell us about your recycling program. What successes have you had in finding a place to send recycled products?
You know, we continue to struggle just in general. I mean, as we continue to drive the recycling market and work, you know, I think our biggest advocate is we just got to be more educational at the curb and getting the contamination and everything down at the curb. What'll really help drive our the recycling market for us. That's where we really struggle is the contamination.
I mean, you're big boys. You know, you're the biggest in the country. Why can't you have your own recycling system? Why don't you, instead of looking for a place to recycle, why don't you have recycling systems within your own company? You've got the capital assets to do that.
We do operate recovering facilities around the country. We do. So we continue to obviously work to grow them. And but that is something we do operate around our country.
What about here?
We do have one here. We do have one here in
Okay.
you know in this area that we operate. So we continue to work to try growing it and utilize it.
Do you think there's a methodology we could pursue to try to secure more recyclable products from businesses in our city as opposed to the voluntary efforts that made by some of these businesses?
I mean, I think we're going to continue, you know, Melissa, obviously, you know, your thoughts as well. You know this market better than I do, as I'm just here kind of assisting with our operations here. But, I mean, I think we obviously always want to work, you know, through our municipal partners to continue to drive the recycling market, absolutely.
Okay. All right, I have no further questions. Thank you so much for your report, and we really appreciate all the work that you've done on our behalf. Thank you so much from Republic.
Thank you.
Okay, let us move on to business 3, an update on diversity recruitment hiring for the city of Fort Lauderdale Fire Rescue.
Yeah,
Who would like to speak?
Mayor, can I just interrupt quickly? Forgive me, I will miss you all the rest of the afternoon. Forgive me for stepping out.
All right. Thank you. Say hello to the governor for us. If you'd like to bring him over here before the banquet starts, we'd be happy to pause the meeting.
Would you like me to bring some resolutions?
Yes, exactly. We have some resolutions you
Yes,
can deliver
I
to
can.
him. Right, Commissioner Glassman?
Oh, no problem.
Oh, yes, okay.
No problem.
If we end early, where is this at now?
We're going to crash the party. What time?
I'm gonna crash.
It's at the Bergeron Ranch.
Oh, my
Yes.
Maybe not.
Love to see you. It is sold out, though.
My horse and buggy won't make it out
That's
there.
far away. Is that west of Federal Highway?
Yeah, it's outside
Okay.
of my district for sure. Yep.
All right, thank you. So, business 3, who will be?
Tarlisha's going to make this presentation.
Thank you, Tarlisha.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commission. Tarlisha Smith, Assistant City Manager and HR Director. I'm also here with Assistant Director Anthony Roberts, who has statistical data to support some of the information that we're bringing forward regarding the hires. Since our last meeting, we just want to make sure that out of the gate, we let the commission know that we were already in progress with the recruitment. So the ideas that were brought forward in this document that are reiterated from the last CAM that was there are cannot be implemented or could not be implemented at the time because we were moving forward with an ongoing process. However, our new process that ended, where we closed in April, we had over 500 applicants. And Anthony can give the statistical breakdown, but we just wanted to make sure that some of the items that we discussed in this CAM are brought forward for a brief discussion. Specifically, looking at the model of the EMTs and the paramedics and eliminating or relaxing those requirements, the staffing model right now at the city does not lend itself to that with our current budgetary restraints. So if we do bring EMTs on board right now, the concern would be how we staff our current models. So if we move forward with the hiring of the EMTs, that will put us in a position where we're dealing with a situation where Broward requires 2 medics per unit. The state staffing requirement is only 1 medic and 1 EMT per unit, but our county ordinance requires 2 medics. We would have to really take a look at our current staffing model as well as go forward with some collective bargaining concerns. So before we delve into that, we want to make sure that the commission is aware of that from a staffing standpoint. Moving forward with the community engagement, the role models, the swim component, and things like that, we can move forward with some of those items. But even with the swim component, in speaking with our the current administration of fire, we haven't had anyone who has been eliminated because of the swimming requirement specifically. And there is a 4-month period from the actual conditional offer to the final offer where and the department offers the opportunity for swimming for any of the candidates. The idea behind this concept was to make sure that we have swim training before we get to that step in the process to allow it in advance. So with that, if you'd like more specific information, the actual consent decree was 11%, the number that we were trying to achieve. We're actually at 15%. And we can speak to that in actual number of hires. That's it.
So, can I jump in here?
Yeah, just a second. So does that complete your
Where
report?
is he?
Does that complete your report?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay. So, okay, go ahead, Vice Mayor.
Okay, thanks, Mayor. Tarlisha, so the EMT, just if you could explain that again. The idea was, what's required in advance, and so if I'm hearing you right, yeah, you can just explain that a little bit more.
Yes, currently with our fire department, we have 3 medics on an engine or ladder. We have 12 2-person rescues, that would be 2 medics, and we have 4 3-person rescues. Right now, all medics. If we relax that, we would have to look at a staffing model that could accommodate that. The state currently requires one EMT and 1 medic, and the Broward County, there's a Broward County ordinance that requires 2 medics on a rescue. That does not lend itself to the model that we have right now if we go and hire a slew of EMTs. We would have to build that into our staffing model over the next few years. And considering our current staffing levels, we wouldn't be in a position to make accommodations for those EMTs at this time.
Okay. Do you think?
Yes.
Okay. So it seems like we're heading in the right direction in terms of increasing diversity in fire rescue. I mean, you said we're at 15%.
Yes.
So that's good. Do you think within the current structure and confines of employment and so forth, can that continue to progress in a positive trajectory, or do you think we're kind of at the ceiling?
Yes, we can, and we would have been able to do a little bit more, but we were already in the middle of the process at the time we initiated this conversation and a dissolution or the, I guess, unilateral agreement to step away from the consent decree at the time. We were already in the process, and as you know, the process to bring a firefighter on board or a class, we do not have our own fire academy, so we have to operate under the schedule that Broward County has or engage other fire academies to assist. I believe we work with Coral Springs as well. We don't cross county lines to go into Dade County, but in order to move forward with that program, I do believe that the ideas that we have are sufficient, but we were in the middle of a cycle at the time that we initiated this process. So moving forward, given the opportunity and the funding, we can look at this model, but I would say it's very important to have the discussion with the collective bargaining agents as well as administration to make sure that we're on the same page, because it is going to possibly impact the staffing model, whether it's adding a 3rd person to a rescue or looking at the way that the engines are staffed. But that's a bigger discussion.
Okay, good. Thanks, Mayor.
Commissioner McKenzie, do you have any comments or questions? No. Commissioner Glassman?
No, thank you.
Okay. I just wanted to repeat the comments that I had in our meeting that if we are going to, I'm speaking specifically with regard to item number 6, if we are going to delay the paramedic certification and allow an individual to join to join our staff, that there be a time frame within which time they do become certified as a paramedic. It can't be it can't be, 10 years. It needs to be like almost immediately upon being hired, that within 2 years. You said about a year it takes to be certified?
Yeah, we wouldn't exceed a normal cycle of at least one class. That would be about right for the
Okay.
entire cycle.
Okay, great. Okay. All right. I have no further questions. So thank you, Tarlisha.
All right, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so that takes us to our commission reports. Unfortunately, we don't have the Commissioner Moritas here. So, Commissioner McKenzie, do you have any commission reports?
No, I don't, sir.
Pass. Okay, Commissioner Glassman.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Okay. Last Wednesday, the 4th, several of us were there, but I always find that to be such an amazingly moving ceremony, the FLPD memorial that we do down by the Broward Center every year. I just think it's such a significant event, and I appreciate the folks that put that on. Thursday, May 5th, what an exciting day for us to actually do the groundbreaking for the Olas Marina. A long time coming, and I want to thank all of the neighborhood folks that showed up from the Central Beach Alliance, and really a very, very important moment in our history. And I'm looking forward to that project and cutting the ribbon on that, because that's going to be quite a facility and really a beautiful addition to our beach and our city. On Friday, May 6th, I had the pleasure of joining the Las Olas Chabad for their annual Fleet Week community Shabbat dinner. It's really quite a beautiful thing that they do to let these folks come from all over the country and have a really nice dinner and just meet a lot of folks. And we actually got to hear everyone's story and what they do and how they contribute to the service that they're in. It was great. There were folks there from the Coast Guard, the Marines, the Navy, and really just a beautiful, beautiful dinner. And the way the community comes together there and offers that hospitality and that generosity and really just the warmth and the love. And it was really, really, really a nice evening. So thank you to Rabbi Chaim Slavatiki and the congregation, and for all the folks that gathered for that evening. It was very, very special. The International Swimming Hall of Fame board meetings have occurred the last couple of weeks as well, as has the Solid Waste Working Group, as you heard this evening. I attended, several of us attended the 22nd Annual Riverwalk Tribute, where we thank folks that just go above and beyond all of the time, not just for Riverwalk, but also for our city, and I say thank you to those folks as well. Friday, May 13th, thank you so much to our Transportation and Mobility Department for the Northeast 15th Beat Tactical. Thank you to the MPO. That was a great several-day affair of painting and just dealing with multimodal transportation and helping folks that don't necessarily always want to just drive in their cars. That's been a long time coming, and great job for everyone on that. That afternoon, I also attended the HR Annual Service Award Luncheon, a really, really nice event where we celebrated service from folks in our staff that have given 25, 30, 35, even 40 years of service to the city of Fort Lauderdale. And that really is amazing. And it was really a nice luncheon, so thank you to everyone that put that together as well. Tomorrow I'll be attending the Marine Industries of South Florida's annual meeting and awards luncheon. I'll also be making a presentation to the students over at Sunrise Middle School, and in the evening is the Flagler Village Civic Association meeting. On Thursday, a lot going on. We have the 4th Annual Art and Stroll on Las Olas for the Business for the Arts group. Also, the Central Beach Alliance membership meeting that evening. So, Mayor, you'll have to take the AC Marriott Hotel ribbon cutting, because I don't know why they would schedule that the same night as the Central Beach Alliance meeting, but they did.
Why don't you bring the meeting over there?
That's okay. I'm not in charge of the meeting. Maybe you could talk to Bill Brown after. But I will be at the Central Beach Alliance meeting. I will not.
Lobby.
I will not be able to be at the AC Marriott. You're on your own. On Saturday, May 21st, congratulations to the Dolphin Democrats, the oldest LGBTQ democratic organization in the state of Florida. They'll be celebrating their 40th anniversary with a gala that evening. And then Tuesday, we have the VIP launch party for the USS Fort Lauderdale, should be a really nice event. South Middle River Civic Association is meeting that evening as well. And then I will be attending the next day, the 25th, the 2022 Learning for Success Partner Celebration and Awards from Kapow. They've done some of our playgrounds in the area, as well as attending the Middle River Terrace Neighborhood Association meeting. Next day, we'll have the District 2 President's Roundtable meeting. I always look forward to that. And then next weekend, of course, the Great American Beach Party on our beach, with the Walk of Fame reception and ceremony as well as part of that. Tuesday, May 31st, I'll be presenting a proclamation. History Fort Lauderdale is holding an event called I Am What I Am as part of a Pride kickoff and an exhibit opening. That should be quite fun. Next
Where's
night,
that?
that's at, where is that? When is that? I'm sorry, Tuesday, May 31st. I believe History of Fort Lauderdale is actually doing a history celebration, the history of drag in Fort Lauderdale. So quite interesting. So that is an exhibit called
Only they
Am
invited
What I Am.
you and not me.
Correct. I think it's at the Galleria Mall, if I'm not mistaken. Is that where it is? I think it is. I'll find out. We have a little time. It's May 31st. On the 1st of June, I can't believe it's June, but Victoria Park Civic Association will be meeting as well. And just a couple of comments, very briefly. I did want to extend condolences to the County Vice Mayor, Lamar Fisher, also our County Commissioner, on the passing of his dad the other day. There'll be a viewing on Thursday with a funeral on Friday. And I wanted to congratulate Ashley, my District 2 Outreach Coordinator, who's getting married this weekend. I wanted to wish her and Reed a life of good health, love, and happiness.
That's Ashley?
Ashley? Yes.
You didn't mention her name.
I didn't say Ashley.
You said my district commissioner. My outreach.
They're all saying I said Ashley.
You said Ashley? Oh, I didn't hear it.
Let's go to the tape. Okay, I don't know. Yes, Ashley Casacito, to be very specific. Our District 2 Outreach Coordinator is getting married this weekend. Congratulations
Mazel
to
tov.
Ashley and to Reed. Many years of love, good health, and happiness. And that's it from me, Mayor.
Okay. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I think Commissioner Glassman, great job covering a lot of events and good things happening and have happened. One additional was Sunday night, presented a proclamation to Bert Corona, who turns 101 in June, 101. He's a Navy veteran. He served in World War II aboard a Navy ship that was actually torpedoed, and multiple sailors lost their lives, but he ultimately became a superintendent of schools in California and just a great, great American. So, Mayor, I presented a proclamation on your behalf to him, and the whole family was very appreciative. So thank you for that. Couple other topics. One, and maybe some of you have as well, but Joanne from the Women's Club is in need of financial support for the roof. So I don't know if that's something the commission wants to talk about, or if there's anything we can do to help or guide them or so forth. So, Mayor, I wanted to bring that up.
Chris, who owns that building?
Yeah, so the building's owned by the Women's Club. We own the land around it. We own the Stranahan Park, obviously, but the house itself, according to BCPA, when I checked it yesterday, is owned by the Women's Club.
And what's the ask, Vice Mayor?
The letter is $130,000.
$130,000?
Yeah, they're needing help with their roof is what they
That sounds like
they sent us all.
gilded. Is this going to be a gold dome roof? That's like, I guess that's what it costs.
Yeah, I just got the letter as we've been sitting here meeting, so I thumbed through it and I did what everybody does, and that's go to the punchline. So that's why I know what the dollar value is without having read the actual letter itself. But Vice Mayor is correct. She's come and approached me as well. It would be something if there was the desire of this commission to work with another group in the form of a participation agreement, there's nothing that would keep you from doing that. You certainly could. You could tell me to move forward with it. I guess it just brings up the philosophic and fundamental question of, if we do it in this circumstance, where does that stop?
Okay, thank you, Vice Mayor.
Yeah, just want to bring that up.
I don't know where that would come from.
Sorry, Mayor?
I don't know where that money would come from.
Yeah, I don't know either. I don't know either. I didn't know if there was any grants that we, are able to, help them with or so forth. I'm just not sure.
Has that building been designated historic? Yeah.
Oh, yes. Do we know if they do take advantage? Does the Women's Club actually apply for state historic grants or other grants that might be available to them for those kinds of projects? Do we know?
I do not know. That's a good question, a fair question that we should ask them. But there may be, based upon the age of the facility and its designation, there may be some dollars out there to assist.
Maybe that's a good place to start, Commissioner, Mayor.
Yeah, because they also do, there's a commercial aspect there, so they would be definitely entitled to, some grant programs. I just don't know if they apply.
Okay, great.
It's across the street from the governmental center. The county, maybe we could do a joint governmental center roof.
Pay 43%.
Just ignore him, Vice Mayor. Please proceed.
Yes, I'm sorry, Vice Mayor.
I'll keep going, no problem. This was another topic that I've just been learning a little bit more about. And
Vice Mayor, hold on one second.
Sorry.
Can you look and see if there's any other alternatives that might be able to accommodate this?
We can, absolutely.
And bring it back so we
Sure.
can see, along with the other grant explorations that were expressed by the commission.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, keep going.
Great, thanks. This was another just kind of thing I've been learning a little bit more about is traffic, red light cameras and kind of the efficacy of them. There have been some legal limbo for a bit in the state about them. They're permissible now, and there's can be some advantages to them. And so I didn't know if, as a commission, we've ever talked about that or exploring that, but just want to lift that up for any thoughts or reactions.
What is the legal status of enforcing traffic violations based on red light cameras?
You can, if you recall, we went through years of litigation regarding that with the particular statute. You can technically, although it does require some staffing and you'd have to revamp the whole program to make sure that we're compliant. So there would be some costs there. But
Well, I remember having a conversation with Lee Feldman, the previous city manager, and he said that your typical ticket was like $250, and of that, the city got what, like $14 or something. So I'm not sure how. I mean, it does save lives, but
yeah, I don't know the specific numbers. I just know from the legal side, once I shouldn't say most, but a lot of people challenge it. So they come to special magistrate. So they're staffing a special magistrate, and we prosecute those cases. I had to cover a few of those prior to becoming city attorney, and get all kinds of excuses. You have the video there, but they're still challenged. So there is, beyond what the police department has to do to process them initially to send them to the company. So you need that staffing there. There's also staffing on the side of when it's protested and when they object.
So
there's a cost involved in that.
All right. So, obviously we have a lot of people that jump traffic lights, and I'm concerned about, traffic safety, but at the same time, I don't want to see the city embroiled in endless litigation that's going to cost us tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars just to defend this practice. Would we anticipate that happening? Should we try to reinstate our efforts?
It's hard to tell. I'd have to look and see. Some other jurisdiction, I think, revamped their programs following that series of years of litigation. So we could look to see what other cities have done that have restarted the program and possibly get a little feedback to see if they've had any challenges. I'm not aware of any off the top of my head.
If you could do that,
yeah.
if they were in the Florida jurisdiction, if that would be possible?
Sure.
Okay.
We'll do that.
So Alan, make me understand what you just said, because I didn't get an answer out of that. What I got was, let me just cut through the chase. Is it legal? Is it enforceable?
Yes and yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
The
All
only
right.
caveat is we have to make sure the way we did it before would be compliant. But yes, there's a way to do it. Both yeses.
Okay. All right. We'll follow up on that.
So
Yeah.
we revamped our program right now. We haven't activated those cameras. They haven't been activated since I've been here, have they?
Many, many years. It's
Many
been a
years. So the equipment will probably be antiquated.
There's a ramping up. Yeah, we'd have to buy the equipment and.
Yeah, there's an issue with the prior vendor. I don't know if this would be the same vendor or a different vendor. If it's a different vendor, we may have issues with prior vendor with regards to how it may have closed out with regards to the existing infrastructure, the poles and the cameras. I don't know that the cameras are still on there. I know the poles are still.
Yeah.
So we may have to look at that as well, how we have anything
Well, I
lingering with
guess
the prior vendor.
looking at other cities might give you.
I don't think we're saving lives if they're running through a red light getting a ticket. We're not saving a life.
No, but you're preventing them from doing it again.
No, because you'll find that the people that do that continually do it.
They keep doing
People
it.
that behave right. And then that one time they get a ticket, they can't even get it dismissed because they made a mistake.
Well, I
I'm
got
just
one
saying.
of those tickets, and
But I mean, huh?
I got one of those tickets.
I got one too,
and I was much more careful in the future. So there is
How many tickets have
chilling
you got?
effect.
How many tickets have you got in your lifetime? Is my point.
In my lifetime?
Yeah.
2. I don't know. Maybe in my life, I have a long life. I'd say what, half a dozen, maybe
Yeah,
10.
but the person that kills somebody, you look at,
Yeah.
they have bad habits, bad records.
You're right.
And other things are part of it. So I think when we look at these heavily traveled intersections, if we just do intervention, just like when we find people speeding in the neighborhoods, put a trap out there, you catch those folks, and typically it's the neighbors who live in the neighborhood that are doing the speeding. So I mean, I still think it's just bad behavior, people behaving bad. So
Well, okay, so on my GPS, it will tell me if a red light camera is up ahead. So that would encourage me not to go through a red light if I know that there's a red light camera. So there are ways to inhibit
prevention,
that
yeah.
behavior.
Oh yeah.
So
But in those fancy cars, there are the people that are running through the lights, killing people, because they have these devices saying, "Hey, stairs not there.
it's on
Make a
my
right
phone.
turn. Make a left
on
turn."
your phone too, I'm sure.
Yeah, but I don't use it
Oh,
because I only had 2 tickets in my life. Short life.
okay.
All right. So,
Shut up.
so Alan, you're going to look into that? Is that what's going to happen next?
Yes, we'll look at other jurisdictions that have
great.
started to see if they've had any challenges, and we'll report back to.
Let me understand you, Vice Mayor. You want to bring this back? I mean, what was?
He wants to bring back.
Yeah, so
yeah.
Okay.
I want to look into it. I just want to look into it. What is it? To your point, what's the data show? What would the cost be? So forth.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. The other next piece is I've been working with a bunch of neighbors in my district were just challenged with docks and dock rentals and the influx of people turning a backyard into a mini marina and just the impact on traffic and safety and so forth. So Alan's been part of some of my neighborhood discussions around that. And Alan, remind me what, as we were kind of talking about that, wanted to bring it up to the commission.
It's never ending.
Yeah.
So we had a productive meeting with some folks. There's, I guess, a couple buckets to put it in. One, there are some specific cases that were brought to our attention that staff and I are looking at to see what we can do from an enforcement standpoint. There's a couple other issues. There's rental of docks throughout the city, which we have a few zoning districts that we expressly state in our ULDR that you're not allowed to rent docks. However, it's silent in some others. So some of the arguments we faced in the past has been, since it's expressly prohibited in 2 or 3 of your districts, but silent in the others, it's therefore permitted in the others. That's not our position, but that is a feasible legal argument. So we may have to address or you may have to address as a commission from a policy standpoint if you want to make that clearer throughout the city. There's also an issue with looking at the code to see how we define marinas. We don't typically allow, obviously, marinas behind residential homes. But there seems to be a practice in some areas, as has been brought up to our attention, where you have 6 or 7 slips behind a house, different ownership of 6 or 7 boats, and there may be separate meters and things of that sort that are dedicated to each of those. So to the extent that we need to tweak how we've defined marina to assist us in stopping these backyard marinas, we may need to look at that as well. In conjunction to that, we're also going to look at some new legislation with regards to home businesses to make sure we don't run afoul of those, because those are very recent. I don't know that that would fall into that. So there's different buckets that we have to look at. But with regards to the particular cases that were brought to our attention by the vice mayor's constituents, we're going to be addressing those with the special magistrate as much as possible and be enforced. But they did bring to our attention, and it may be something that we need to figure out how to look at. There's a particular corner, and I won't have the right addresses and things of that sort, but it seems that there's ownership of certain homes by LLCs, and in some areas there seems to be a concerted effort to turn those into having yachts there for charter or for other purposes beyond just somebody owning a home and then having their yacht in the back. So there seems to be some concerted effort amongst various properties. A little difficult for us to prosecute without actual evidence because all of it's circumstantial, but we need to look at that as well. But from a city commission standpoint, we may want to look at making the restriction very specific in all zoning districts, and then also relook at the marina definition.
Well, this has been a problem that we've been experiencing all over the city, and we've just been discussing this for years about, especially on 20th Avenue near the Galleria. That area on Middle River has always been rife with people playing, cat and mouse with the city, saying that they're living there, but they're really not living there, and they're using it as a commercial marina. And that was an effort we tried to target, people who were, undertaking bad behavior. So I don't know what you're saying is any different at what we did then is no different than what you're suggesting we do now, and we've had very limited success in doing that because it's all through code enforcement. And by the time code enforcement gets there, by the time they go through the process and they jerk around the special magistrate and you get extension after extension after extension, the damage is done. It's just ridiculous.
Enforcement is a challenge, but no, it is. But in the case, sort of one of the cases that was brought to our attention, you have 7 slips behind this house, and from what we can tell, each boat is owned by somebody different. If you can get circumstantial evidence, and I'm working with staff now, we're going to have some follow-up meetings where you can see from the water separate meters for the docks. You have separate, hookups and things of that sort. Then it happened years ago in another district where we actually ended up in court with that, because although at that time they were permitted to build those slips, they weren't supposed to use it as a marina. We contended that it was a marina. So yes, it does take time. It's not an overnight type thing, but I think we can address it. The first order of business I would suggest would be to make it consistent throughout all the districts or all the zoning districts, and then possibly with staff looking at making the definition of the marina more restrictive, so it allows less flexibility for people to get cute and try to circumvent our code.
But Alan, I agree with the mayor on this, Vice Mayor has a good point. I remember the mayor when he was a commissioner, I mean, really hammering this issue down. And we never really, like I said, we never really got anywhere other than going to the magistrate, not being able to prove that they are working on a vessel or all this stuff. And here it is, at least 8.5 years for me later. Vice Mayor, you've been here 4.5, almost 5 years. And it's still the same issue, not being able to enforce it. But I have a question, and my question would be, because right now we've been dealing with, I know I've been turning one in on Sunrise Key. You did it prior to that. And first of all, this vessel's, in my opinion, just too big to belong to someone. But if the vessel is registered, can we tweak the ordinance so if the vessel needs to be registered to the person that homesteads that house? Then it might be easier when we go out?
They're supposed to be, but what happens with a lot of these mega yachts is they're owned by corporations for tax reasons.
Then put it in a marina.
Right. So you'll have the home owned by Mr. John Doe, but the house itself, the yacht's going to be under an LLC for a variety of reasons.
Then put it in a marina. If it's my or the mayor's yacht that in our names, then we can pull it up to our dock.
Well, if it's put in an LLC, okay, obviously they're looking to benefit to deduct some of the costs of operating that through a business operation, and that should be enough of a tip-off to let you know that it's not just for personal use.
We can certainly look into that. We'll check Florida statutes to see how much leeway we have with regards to restricting.
If you
but
could
that's
do
something
that
we can
would
do.
be helpful.
What do you think, Vice Mayor?
To make this happen.
Yeah, I'm interested in, how can we just holistically improve our abilities to enforce and be consistent?
I think if they register the vessel and it matches the homestead, that'll help us alleviate a lot of the things that you're seeing now and we're seeing across the board. The bigger issues like Alan's talking about, we can work towards that. But right now, if that vessel's sitting at your house for 6 months,
right,
it's not registered to you, then that's, to me, is a indicator that you're renting this dock to someone.
Yeah, but can we fine based on that, solely based on that, Alan?
If we change the ordinance.
Let's ask the city attorney to research the state statute to see how much authority we have to regulate this, and it's going to take a few steps to get to where we need to go. But I'm totally with you, Vice Mayor. This is
okay.
And they've gotten very imaginative. One of the examples that was brought to our attention of this particular house is the owner, the named individual, sold the house, put it in the name of a corporation, and then that corporation is releasing that house to that individual, but they're clearly running a business out of it for charters. And then he says, oh, no, I live here, but the house is in the name of corporation, leasing back. They're getting very imaginative.
Yeah, we need to tighten that. We need to tighten
exactly.
Let's find out what's the extra mile we could go to really sink our teeth. Because 8.5 years, I haven't seen us win. Win situations. You longer than that.
We've won a few. We've won a few on 20th Avenue. We've won a couple.
Few.
Yeah, but that's only because
everyone that is in this situation in terms of violating.
The example that Alan is pointing out to us is so egregious, it's ridiculous. So, that's
exactly.
Find us something that we can really
set an
use.
example.
If I may steal your thunder, Vice Mayor.
Please, any day.
Continue, Vice Mayor. Continue.
All right, great, thank you. So that's great. And then, kind of along those similar lines, is our vacation rental enforcement. Yes, I know we all feel similarly. So again, I know we all have folks in our neighborhoods that are, feel really concerned about this. And my ask, I guess, is could we have Chris, with Anthony, kind of figure out, okay, what are other municipalities doing? What falls within the state, statutes that allows us, and how can we be as proactive as possible around vacation rentals, enforcing and so forth?
So, yes, we absolutely can. I'd like to put that, though, on a future agenda so that we can talk about what we're doing today. I'd like you all to know that it's pretty sophisticated today. But we can always be better. But we have people assigned to it today. We've got some great technology resources out there that help us identify them when they're trying to be hidden, et cetera. But yeah, I'd love to bring it forward and talk about it.
That'd be great. And Chris, if we could see what other municipalities are doing, Hollywood and so forth, if that could be part of it. Great.
No problem.
Awesome. Great. Then the last thing, Mayor, maybe you were going to bring this up, but just, in the newspaper's article about Chris's possible departure in July. And yes, I know. It's I don't think we're going to allow that to happen. So
he's going to refuse his resignation.
Yeah, exactly. He's going to have to reconsider. I move to not allow it. So I think Chris has done a phenomenal job, and I completely understand the desire for closer to family and so forth. And so, Mayor, I don't think I'm not asking for us to figure this all out right now, but I just wanted to just make sure we've got, kind of plans in place for, I think he's suggesting his last day is July 22nd. So we just got, plans in place to continue.
So perhaps we should, at the next commission meeting, the conference meeting, we should discuss what we want to do in the interim, and figure out, how to proceed. In the meantime, we have 2 months to squeeze every little bit of juice out of Chris, and just to actually go over pending issues and pending projects that we have that need to be, followed through on. I have to tell you, if you think about, when we first took office and all the things that this commission, along with the city manager, have been able to accomplish, it's dizzying. And we've really done a lot as a group to move the city in a direction that I think many, many people in this community appreciate. And a lot of it, I have to, tip my hat to the city manager for helping to execute the policy decisions of this commission, and to do it in a way that really, it really brought Fort Lauderdale forward, and you'll definitely leave a positive mark on our community. But having said that, we do need to transition, and we'll figure that out if we can do it at the next meeting when the former Commissioner Moritas is here. We can have that discussion. So thanks for bringing it up, though, Vice Mayor.
Definitely.
Yep.
Actually,
Thanks, Mayor.
we only have really, even though I think it said July 22nd, our last meeting is July 5th. That's really coming up.
Well,
so
we have our next meeting.
right.
Okay. Okay.
Great. Thanks, Mayor. That's all I've got, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. I have a few things just to go over. I want to thank the folks that visited us from the U.S. Navy. The events that we had, went to an Admiral's reception for Fleet Week, and went to a number of events on the Las Olas Oceanside Park, a welcoming committee, welcoming group. The city of Fort Lauderdale really went all out to make our servicemen welcome and to show them how we appreciate who they are and for their service. I've heard one anecdote after another of folks meeting some sailors and taking them on their boats for a ride for the day. One guy had tickets to a hockey game, and he had a suite and invited several servicemen into his suite to go see a hockey game. I mean, just all these gratuitous efforts on the part of just everyday individuals in our city, let alone the welcoming committee and the organizing committee that help organize some of the special events. I just want to thank everybody in this community for the yeoman's effort, if I can use that pun, yes, to really make our servicemen and women welcome in our city, and we hope they continue to have Fleet Week in our city in years to come. And we're looking forward to July 30th for the commissioning of the USS Fort Lauderdale, and I hope as many of us can be there as possible. Some of the things that I participated in, I was at the Asian Pacific American Heritage Celebration at the Museum of Discovery and Science on May 7th. That evening, the Gay Men's Chorus of Fort Lauderdale celebrated its 35th anniversary at the United Church of Christ. We recognized West Marine at the Lauderdale Yacht Club, who is now deciding to move their headquarters from California to the city of Fort Lauderdale, right across the street. It's a welcoming opportunity, and we look forward to their presence here in our city, which really points to the migration that we're starting to see from the West Coast, the North, the Midwest, everywhere in this country, of people finding Fort Lauderdale as a destination, not just to visit and to enjoy, but to establish their businesses, to start a career, build families, all the things that we talk about. We're starting to see it come into action. I want to thank everybody on this commission and everybody in this community that helps make those things happen. Let's see. Commissioner Glassman talked about the Riverwalk Annual Tribute, the 15th Avenue Lake Ridge street painting. Okay, so on May 19th, we will have the grand opening ribbon cutting for the AC Marriott Hotel on Alhambra. That's going to be at 5 p.m. And also, right after that, there'll be a ribbon cutting for 2022 Art and Stroll at Bank of America Lobby at 401 East Las Olas. Did you mention that? You did, okay.
Business for the arts.
Yes. On that same evening, it's going to be a busy night, the Consul General of Hungary is hosting a wine tasting event at the Hilton Fort Lauderdale Beach Hotel. Sounds like a nice event. And then the next day, we're having the grand opening of the LA Lee YMCA at 8:30 a.m. Really excited about that. The city has been a strong partner in realizing that building, and so we're very, very happy to finally launch it. On May 20th, that morning, the Greater Fort Lauderdale Alliance is having its mid-year lunch at the Hard Rock Casino. And the next day, the Fort Lauderdale Fire Rescue Awards ceremony at the Parker. That evening, I think you mentioned the Dolphin Democrats having their 40th anniversary, and I'll be giving opening remarks at that event. Let's see. I'm also doing welcoming remarks to the South Florida Symphony Orchestra at noon on May 22nd, which is at the Bahia Mar. Another ribbon cutting and new business chicken kitchen at 1523 North Federal Highway at 4 p.m. on May 23rd. And the groundbreaking for Aviva at 501 Southeast 6th Avenue. That's on May 25th at 10 a.m. On May 25th, that same morning, I'll be speaking at a chamber event at the Lauderdale Yacht Club, honoring unsung education heroes. Sounds like a great event. The next day, May 26th, the Las Olas Chabad Friendship Cafe Awards. That's at 6:30 p.m. Are you going to be there?
What night is that?
That's May 26th at 6:30 p.m.
I actually think I have a neighborhood
thing that
night. Yeah, Hendricks Isle. We have a meeting at night. Sorry.
Okay. Then on May 27th, I'll be presenting a proclamation for National Safe Boating Week to Philippe Cousteau. Yes, the grandson of Jacques. 11 a.m. at the Marriott Harbor Beach. At May 28th, we'll have a Walk of Fame reception, 2 p.m. at Beau's on the Beach. This is all part of the Great American Beach Party.
Yep.
We used to have a banner.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to our banner?
What happened to that banner?
Up in the attic somewhere?
We probably have it. If we don't, we can get it. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe for our next meeting or tonight.
We used to have banners for all the events.
Yeah, I know. So the Great American Beach Party is Saturday, May 28th from 11 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. Activity, live bands, kids zone, art show, classic car show, sand sculpting contest, the SOCOM Para Commandos, and tribute to the U.S. Armed Forces. It's a family-friendly event. Hope everyone can be there. It's on Fort Lauderdale Beach. And
Is the car show gonna make it? I
yeah,
heard there's an issue.
yeah.
No, I heard there's an issue with,
You think?
no, that's what city
that
manager.
was-
Exotics on Los Olas, that'll be on the agenda tonight.
Yeah, it's an issue.
No, I don't think that's the same thing.
Different
is it?
car show.
Did you say Concours? That's a
Car
different,
show versus the one
versus Los Exotics on Los Olas?
Yeah, that's different.
Oh, it's exotic on us,
Yeah, that's exotics.
not the one that's with the American.
No,
Beach
no, no.
Club.
That's
Correct.
different. That's different.
It's a November event.
On May 30th, Fort Lauderdale will once again have its Memorial Day ceremony at Lauderdale Memorial Park at 9 a.m. We invite the community to participate there. Also that morning, I will be speaking at the Sandy Nininger statue at 11 a.m. To honor the men and women of the armed forces who served and who passed away in service. May 31st, we're having a special Olympics ceremony at the Los Olas Oceanside Park. That's at 2:30 p.m. And then we're having a very interesting event happen in Fort Lauderdale. On June 2nd, the Gumball 3000, the evening of June 2nd. What is Gumball 3000? I guess you could say it's an exotic car, 80 days around the world kind of thing, where people spend a lot of money to participate in this event, and they drive their very expensive cars, their Bugattis and Maseratis and you name it, through this so-called race. And this year is going to conclude in Fort Lauderdale at Drive Pink Stadium. So sounds like an exciting event, and we're really looking forward to it. They expect hundreds and hundreds of people to attend this event. Okay, those are the events, and I just want to talk about a couple of issues. To follow up what I had brought up previously, Mr. Boileau, about the motorcycle noise and all of that, you were going to get back to us to see what our authority is to be able to regulate. And also, did I send you the article? Someone said that there is now in California, police are using a device that they can detect decibel levels, like using a radar gun.
I think they're like noise cameras or something or other. Yeah, we're still looking into that. California has it. There's another jurisdiction too that out of the state that's using that we have to look into. The governor still hasn't been provided with the bill with regards to the music aspect from vehicles.
So maybe I should send a letter encouraging him to sign that bill?
He hasn't, from what we can tell, he hasn't actually even been given the bill to sign. It still hasn't.
Why don't you run
been
out to the
signed on this
Bergeron
side.
Ranch and tell him in person?
Yeah, right. Howdy.
Go get it signed tonight.
Because the statute, the statute's
There
pretty
with
much.
my Harley.
The statutes we talked about last time are pretty, obviously, they're the same. That would be a game changer on the music side if that does pass into law. And then we can look into the noise decibel cameras or whatever.
Right,
I've heard.
I think I'm going to write a letter just encouraging him to sign that. So, all right. 911. It's on life support. Have you had a chance to do the research that the commission asked, Chris, to determine what costs were incurred by some of the other cities that were switching off of the county system onto their own? Have you had a chance to do that
Well,
yet?
yeah, but we took a different path to it than that. What we did is we engaged with Fitch, again, the consultant that worked for us in 2015, 2016, and directed them to update that study that they did for us from 15, 16. So I think we get a quicker answer with that updating of the report. And as soon as I get it back, I'll share it. Those numbers were in the $10 to $12 million range per year in 15, 16. So I've just got to think in this.
Well, I'd like to
which
know,
probably
I think we
it's
wanted to
higher
know what
than
the
that,
other
but-
cities are. These are smaller cities. I can't believe they're spending that kind of money. I mean, these
Well, the
smaller
cities that we've reached out to have been multiple cities in the same center. We just don't know that there's anybody that's big enough that could also take us over that's not the county. And I think, who's my best to defer to? Chief Lynn, maybe? Yeah, 911 has certainly been a topic of interest in our public safety department since the most recent discussions. So we'll let Chief Lynn weigh in.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I reached out to Fitch for the study, and they asked that before they gave the final price estimate to us, that they conclude with what they're doing with BSO. So we're waiting to get that back. I spoke to Plantation. They do not have the capacity to cover for Fort Lauderdale. And I believe the fire chief spoke with Coral Springs, who mentioned that they might have that capacity, but that's questionable.
But have we asked them how much is that? Like, let's say, Plantation. Do they have cost figures? What it's costing them every year, or what it costs to ramp up? What it's costing them every year to operate?
I'm sure they know their operational costs. I did not ask that question, though.
So, can you get back to us with figures from these various cities that have gone independent? Because that's really having these consultant studies. Look what happened with the Joint Government Center. I would like to see some real numbers, some real costs that were incurred by some of these cities, because that would be a barometer as to what we could expect.
Okay.
All right.
That's no problem.
All right. Thank you.
Did Plantation ever have 911?
Say it again.
Did Plantation ever have 911 with the county?
I don't know.
No.
No, they've had their own dispatch for many years.
Many years. So they're like we were, and then we broke off and went back.
Yeah.
Is there anyone out there that broke off and started their own since?
I know of other cities who are leaving the county now and going with Coral Springs, but I don't know of anyone who had their own dispatch left and is now recreating their.
Coral Springs never came over to.
No.
Okay.
They never left. Okay. Thank you, Chief.
So also, Chief and Chris, I had an update on the police headquarters, and we're going to be breaking ground.
When?
Well, it's anticipated this fall. Right now, they're going through a value engineer exercise to bring the cost down. This is the architect. We designed a $100 million building, and inflationary costs to have it up.
That's fine, but that's not what I'm talking about. Don't distort it. We're talking about going down this road. Is there a opportunity for this ask to be housed in this new headquarters we're building?
I know there is no plans for that right now. I don't know. We haven't asked for a study or any kind of architectural review to see if we could accommodate it or not. And I don't know what the price for that would be either.
If we're going down this road.
Well, how much space would it be required? I mean,
Probably not a space much larger than this commission chambers with some offices attached to it.
I don't know. I expect that from the other
or
side.
we can include it in the new city hall.
Joint or individual?
Okay, we'll figure.
No, but it's a immediate, emergent ask we're talking about with this 911 system. We're very close in a police station. We're nowhere near in a city hall. In my experience, this is the time I think to try to capture that, so that it doesn't further delay us. Because anticipation of this new station is 2024 opening. So if we're going to go down that road, let's try to do it all at the same time, simultaneously.
Okay. Maybe we can close in part of that open space that they have designed.
Probably ways to build it into the building. There's many of those centers that you see around the United States. You see them underground.
Or we could take our $325 million and do police and headquarters all together. What do you think?
Well, let's not go there right now.
We're going to break away.
It's giving me a headache. Okay. Panhandling. Where are we on that?
We had, I think the last time we spoke, we have a new, what's called the Austin decision that came from the U.S. Supreme Court, which is promising because it's seemingly detracting from the previous case that was giving us some problems. So we've filed supplemental authority with the federal court and are arguing that now the Supreme Court has retracted from the position, and hence one of our ordinances would fall squarely within the confines of that new opinion and would therefore be constitutional. As you know, with federal court, state court, whatever the court system, it's not going to be overnight. So we're arguing that.
So when you say Supreme Court, you mean Supreme Court of the United States?
Yes.
And
Yes.
they've rendered a decision on a case, or
Yes, the Austin case.
yeah.
They've really seemed to have retracted from really the breadth of the Reed case that was really problematic for everybody across the country with regards to these First Amendment issues. So we're arguing that in court. Beyond that, we're still under the temporary injunction with regards to enforcement of our two ordinances. What we can do in the interim, if I guess we could do it quicker than the courts will rule, would be for us to amend our road canvassing ordinance, which we can tweak to say we need to take the references that make the references to the ULDR that were sort of problematic with regards to signs and things of that sort. We can amend it to, I think, fit constitutional muster.
Why don't we try that? I think there's a consensus on this commission that we really need to do something. It's gotten so out of hand.
Right.
People say the homeless problem, but it's not so much homeless as it is panhandling.
Right. Now, we won't be able to target panhandling. It's going to be across the board for everyone.
Yeah,
Identifiable.
solicitation in the roadways, right?
And it won't be every roadway. It's going to be the more heavily traveled, the ones that we can provide data that substantiates the safety issue. And then typically it's going to be when there's moving traffic. You know, we've had incidences where at stop signs and they're touching cars, not necessarily causing damage, but gets a little
There's one
dicey.
spot where two people have died, so I mean that should be
the
sufficient.
wheelchair, yeah.
Yeah, and also the guy who used to have that big sign. You know,
No, it is dangerous, especially this intersection here.
Yeah.
Especially at night.
in front, right near
Very
Sears,
dangerous.
the old
So-
Sears.
So you're saying only if I'm stopped at a major intersection, this amendment would apply?
There's certain our existing ordinance now, and we're going to update it.
Our
with
existing
FDOT.
orders, we can't do anything to those people, according to what the lawsuit you told us about.
No, correct, because of different issues. But we had identified certain intersections that were rated high enough by FDOT to constitute a safety concern. Pembroke Pines had done the same thing, and they had been successful in defending
So
it.
when we go to this intersection,
Right.
just so I understand what it is we're doing, if I'm stopped and there's someone there asking me for soliciting, we can cite them for
Being, right, if that's an identified, which I think it would be, if it's identified as that,
being
for being there and.
public
Right.
safety
And that,
nuisance.
right, and it wouldn't be just him, it would be,
Can we arrest them, or we just give, what was a
well, right now,
like before, when we were trying to do this on, with the homeless, it was a notice to appear.
Right.
So I just want to know what enforcement we're gonna have.
Right.
To make this work so that those folks aren't there doing what they're doing, because they shouldn't be there in the first place, but we're going this extra mile. What's the tool? How
Right.
much bite does it have?
so it's gonna depend on what you charge them with. So, for example, if they're impeding traffic, they're gonna be given a traffic citation. You can't arrest for that.
We're gonna hand them
But
a
if we
traffic
have an ordinance in place that they're violating, we could.
So the orders is gonna be public safety nuisance.
Correct.
Right, it
If they're
won't,
standing there asking me for money, they're violating.
right. Just like if a person's standing there
Just
with
standing
a
there.
sign saying,
I need something.
or it's not just panhandling, anybody,
This-
politician wanting to get votes, waving,
I
anybody.
won't stand in the middle of the road.
A newspaper vendor, anyone that would be in violation of.
See, now I stand on the other corner.
I did that once.
So we can work on that. I'm sure, the attorneys might try to challenge it, but we can at least, I think we can make a good go of it. And then, of course, we have on the same track, we have raised the issue with the court with the new opinion, so.
Okay, all right, let's see if we can move that forward. Thank you. And lastly, I'm not looking for any action necessarily by the commission, but when the city went to Dubai 2 months ago, we had the opportunity to go to, they were coincidentally hosting a World's Fair there. And we had an opportunity to go to the event, and we went to the U.S. exhibit. And the U.S. exhibit consisted of an amazing sci-fi presentation with something that I thought would be really a game changer for our Museum of Discovery and Science. So I just jokingly said to the director of the exhibit, what are you going to do with this thing after it closes in 2 days? And he says, I don't know. He said, he said, first of all, the government of Dubai paid for the whole exhibit, like $60 million. That includes the building. But
we should give them the roof then.
yeah. But I mean, the exhibit will just blow your socks off. It's just an amazing thing. So anyway, we pursued it, and just during the meeting, I was handed this this PowerPoint, I guess it is, and I've been talking with Joe Cox at the Science Museum of the possibility of bringing the guts of the exhibit to Fort Lauderdale and make it a permanent exhibit here in our city. And they go through all the different components, and everything's going to take to get it here. Some of the optional purchases, which I don't necessarily recommend we get, but anyway, it could cost anywhere between $1 million and $2 million to bring this exhibit here, which costs many millions more. So I'm going to start talking to some of the donor folks in our community to see if they have an appetite, especially those that are already on the board of the Museum of Discovery and Science. But for anyone who's ever gone to our museum, you see how it's mostly focused on kids, and it's great in that regard. But I think that we need to elevate the offerings that we have there to bring in more young adult and adult exhibits that will. This exhibit will mesmerize the viewer. Chris was able to go. We both attended, and coincidentally, the genius behind the exhibit and who designed it and all that is from Tampa. And so we've been in touch with him. In fact, I got a text from Joe Cox during the meeting that he is in St. Louis at a conference, and he's planning to meet with the folks that designed the exhibit there. But I just wanted to put this on everyone's radar because I don't know if the city needs to participate in this in any way, but this would be a game changer for that museum, and it would be a wonderful opportunity because it would be a fraction of what it would cost to recreate this from scratch. So I just wanted to bring it to everyone's attention, something to think about, something to talk about.
And we only have to decide before next week.
We have to what?
Decide before next week.
Yeah, we have a week to figure this out.
Plenty of time.
I don't accept that as why that demand was put on us. I don't understand. So, anyway, so I have nothing further. Anything further, folks? We good?
I do have a couple of things. Yes, thank you.
One thing.
I started with 4. Now I'm down to 2, based upon what you all talked about. Since our discussion of the Women's Club, I'll just let you know that Rachel Williams with our Housing and Community Development found an agreement that we used with the Women's Club for CDBG funds back in 16-17 for some roof work. So there is an example, fairly recent example, of funds that were used on that building to do some repair, I think is probably what it was. So we're going to explore all those options.
Not to the tune of $130,000.
Not to the tune of $130,000, right. But just so you know that there's been a little bit of movement there. For those that offered comments just moments ago, I just want to thank you. Obviously, making career and family decisions are not easy, and this one was certainly not light to make. And I appreciate your supportive comments. And we'll be here to assist as we formulate whatever transition plan happens there. And the last item I have is the recruitment firm that we hired to do the auditor search has reached out to us and wants to engage with the mayor and commission to start to identify what your desires are in the next city auditor. I wanted to come to you and say, do you all want to do that in a public setting? Do you want me to have them come here when you're all assembled together? Would you like to do it individually? Would you like to appoint one member of the elected body to serve as the conduit and voice piece to the recruiter? I just need some direction as to how you all would like to proceed. But they are ready to be interviewing you at this point to find out how to advertise for what you want.
Collectively.
Should they come to each of us individually, or just, shall we appoint somebody here on the commission? Honestly, it should be someone who's gonna stay on the commission, so that really just,
So let's do it collectively.
what's that?
Let's do it collectively. They come in a forum or a workshop.
At a hearing, at a,
Set up, all we're doing is set up a criteria, pretty much, right?
so you wanna do it in an open forum?
I agree with Commissioner.
Do it in an open forum?
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So we'll schedule that then for the next conference meeting. We'll have them come and just receive your feedback. That's what I have for this meeting, Mayor.
Chris?
Okay.
Yes.
I did just receive a text from Alpharetta tomorrow, and they've already set up a meeting with you
They
for
have.
July 29th, just so you know. Okay, so good luck. Thank you.
Wow. I'm not even going to respond to that. Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you,
Always a
Commissioner.
comedian.
Thank you.
Okay. There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned. See you at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, the CRA.
CRA?
CRA meeting.
We do. We've got the minutes in that, the acceptance of those conveyance of lots.
Let us convene the CRA board meeting. Would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Vice Chair Sorensen,
Yes.
Chair Trentalis.
Yes, and we have a quorum. We'll begin the meeting with M1, motion approving minutes for the May 3rd, 2022 Community Redevelopment Agency Board meeting. Do I hear a motion?
So move.
Second. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Vice Chair Sorensen,
Yes.
Chair Trentalis.
Yes. And the minutes are approved. Now, R1, this is a resolution accepting the instruments of conveyance for 15 properties from the city of Fort Lauderdale for affordable housing, authorizing contract with companies for appraisal, title, survey, demolition, maintenance, and related services, authorizing the issuance of requests for proposals for the development of the properties, and authorizing the executive director to execute any and all related instruments and delegating authority to the executive director to take certain actions. Any questions? Someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduce.
It's been introduced. Please call the roll.
A resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the City of the Fort Lauderdale Community Redevelopment Agency accepting instruments of conveyance from the City of Fort Lauderdale for 15 parcels located in the Northwest Progresso Flagler Heights Community Redevelopment Area, authorizing the Executive Director to engage in appropriate due diligence, authorizing the issuance of a request for proposals for the development of the parcels, delegating authority to the Executive Director to execute any and all related instruments related to conveyance, due diligence, and maintenance of the parcels, and providing for an effective date. Commissioner Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Vice Chair Sorensen,
Yes.
Chair Trentalis.
Yes, and the item is approved. Any further business of the CRA?
There's not.
There is not. Meeting concluded. Thank you.